YouTube. Remember, please, if you have not subscribed to me on YouTube, please do. It's a girl has no name, just like it is on TikTok as well. We're live on Twitch. Welcome, YouTube. Welcome, Twitch. It's nice to have you guys here. Keep tapping the screen, share the live. Hi, I know I miss you guys. I have a lot going on, right? So today's the broadcast where we talk about how conservative policy is affecting women and children primarily. Obviously, there are many things to talk about today, as well as just to give a short preview because I think I have a couple of minutes. I mean, tomorrow's People's Receipts, I would not want to miss it. I've been compiling that outline all day for the show. There's going to be quite a bit of information. Sorry if I sound quiet. My voice is a bit scratchy. Um, There'll be quite a bit of information as well on the People's Receipts, which will start. It starts at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. I highly suggest being here as well for the People's Receipts tomorrow. Man, I said in the Discord, it feels like I have whiplash. That is the best way to describe it, right? I mean, so many things have been going on. I don't even know what to say at this point. Oh, awesome. I've been looking, it's a long story. I don't want to get into a long software explanation, but I'm sorry, I'm looking at all of these. I love this stream. Okay, I got it. I'm sorry, I'm just looking for where my multi-stream is on Streamlabs so I can make sure I can see comments on YouTube and stream and other things as well. I'll figure it out. Sorry, I have a lot going on today. As you guys might know, so many things are happening all at once. I thought by Saturday things were out of control in this country, but never say it can always get worse. That should always be our motto. Give me 1 second while I make sure I have everything set up correctly. I have some new things to show you guys as well. I'm trying to think of where my starting point should be. I think I'll start here since we're waiting for Dani to get done with clinicals, as well as Mandy, who's a little behind. I know she's having a migraine. We're all having reactions to Trump. Keep tapping the screen, share the live gift. This is my Cash App and Venmo. If you would like a message read aloud on screen, if you would like to support what I do, it is highly appreciated. I do rely on your tips and donations to keep my research and show going. I just wanted to show these, but I guess I could show them as well. Hold on. Oopsies. So I think based on just this last weekend and what we've all been dealing with. Hi guys, hi y'all, keep tapping the screen. Welcome, welcome. I've been talking for a long time about starting some sort of support group, if you will, inside of our Discord, a weekly support group. Don't worry, I got the curriculum in. Here's one, workbook for anxiety. For managing stress, worry, and fear. Do you think this will be a good one for our weekly support group to go through? Regulate intense emotions and create lasting change. Do you think maybe we should go through this one? Don't you, as a teacher, I've got to come up with a curriculum for the group. I use tequila, Robert. You made a funny, good one. But I wanted you guys to know, like, I know I talk a big game, but the curriculum just got here. Our DBT cards for coping skills. Don't you worry. If you don't know what dialectical behavior therapy is, it's all about creating balance and mindfulness and like developing communication skills and things of that in extreme situations. Oh, you have these electrical. I have two. This is I have another box as well. This is a new one I got. So yeah, I've always said, and I know dialectical behavior therapy sounds crazy, but it really is just like anxiety, stress management, like communication skills, mindfulness skills, ways to manage your stress, fear, and anxiety in extreme situations. So if you have like PTSD, CPTSD, things of that nature, always a good idea. Like it's amazing. Yeah, it's always a good idea to try it. So I will go through, we're going to do some sort of, it's going to be like a Discord event, which Cootery, one of my amazing mods, was talking to me yesterday about how we can like have teaching tools, and I can share my screen and things like that. But most importantly, I really want it to be just like an event where we can meet, and like if people need support weekly, want to talk, whatever the case may be, we can have like journaling prompts, things of that nature, and we'll do that. So yeah, I just want to let everyone know this is something I have been thinking about, and like after this weekend and yesterday, I was like, oh my God, if I ever didn't think we needed this, yeah, I no longer think we can put it off. So I have actually more workbooks and things coming, some even funnier ones than these ones. So I'll let you guys know. We'll probably be starting next week, whichever day we choose. Oh, actually, I have something. I don't know if this is funny. I mean, laugh so we don't cry is our new life theme. So you could think this is funny, but maybe it's not that funny. But I was thinking of like, what should names for our support group be? And you know me, I was writing some down because I'm nuts. So hold on. I came up with some good one. I do think like a really like conservative coping circle, but there's some really funny ones I just want to show you so we can all have a good laugh. Look at these names I was coming up with. Fox and Friends Recovery Club, Right Wing Rehab, Magnificent Survivors, Tucker Therapy, Red Hat Recovery Room, Alternative Facts Anonymous. But I mean, whatever. I was just coming up with a bunch of ideas we could name our group, but I do like Conservative Coping Circle. That may be the one. But you know me, when I start distracting myself with a list of random stuff, it gets really weird and really funny. So I thought you guys might appreciate some of these. Keep tapping this. Yeah, CCC will make great shirts. I had some even better ones. Like, these are so funny. Electoral Stress Disorder Society, Space Lasers Survivors United, Constitutional Crisis Club. I love alliterations. The Bigley Healing Circle. That's the only one I didn't know. Should we be called the Bigley Healing Circle? That's the other one I really like. I think it's between like Conservative Coping Circle and the Bigley Healing Circle. Who would like to be a member of the Bigley Healing Circle? I think that would be absolutely hilarious. I think it's Constitutional Crisis Club is a good one too. Conservative Coping Circle. We could just change the name. We'll just have the same acronym and just change the names over and over. Like that too is an idea. Keep tapping the screen. Tap, tap, tap. Tapping is clapping. Let's get to 50K as fast as possible. I so appreciate your guys' engagement. It's so important. Okay, I know. I really like Thoughts and Prayers Anonymous. I thought that was a good one. Deep State Deep Breathing Club. Oh my God. There's so many good ones, but I do think we should either be like the Bigley Healing Circle or Bigley Healing Club, or like something to do with like CCC, Conservative Coping Circle, Conservative Coping People. Then we could be the CCP. But I just love alliteration, as you can probably tell. I just think for marketing and advertising and branding and just for remembering names, I love an alliteration. So while I do think it's funny to have like the CCP as the acronym, it's hard for me make anxiety cope again. Third wives club. Yeah, that's yeah, maybe Melania will join. Did you guys see this one? The well-regulated militia of emotions, gazpacho police survivors, fake news feelings circle, the January 7th committee. I can't- this is what I was doing yesterday, so I wouldn't cry. Keep tapping the screen. Let's get to 50K. Fake news feelings circle is a good one. But anyways, I think if we are going to have a weekly support group in the Discord, it's going to be somewhat funny and it's going to be awesome. Maybe we can print out like adult coloring pages and I can mail it to you. Art therapy was a big one for me when I was learning how to cope with PTSD. So we can do all sorts of things to support each other, and so no one feels like they're always alone. Diet Coup support group. Did you see that one, Joe? Diet Coup? I know. That's a great one. Maybe we could just change the name over and over if we need to. We'll just change the name whenever we feel like it. I don't know. This is literally what I did, so I didn't cry yesterday. Oh, wait, I did cry yesterday, which let me show you guys my neighbor. I didn't actually put all of the ridiculous banners my neighbor has in here, but here's just one. Whoopsies. I put this in the Discord yesterday. Like, I was trying not to consume media yesterday because my, mental health. Like, I talked about it. I need to take a day. I probably need to take much longer than a day to be okay. I walked outside. Yay, Danielle is here. I walked outside. I guess that you're not Mandy. Hold on. I am going to put this and then bring this down here. Oops, that's too low. That's good enough. Don't judge me, people. Keep tapping the screen. Let's get to 50K. Tap, tap, tap. I wish that. Oh, what is. My friends and family members told me there was an ice raid in Phoenix yesterday. Is that true? I mean, yeah, we can talk, like, we can get into that. Like, I mean, was there specifically an ice raid in Phoenix? We voted for, I mean, I shouldn't even get into it, but yeah, there are a lot of ice raids in Phoenix. Let me look, because if you're asking me, like, if I saw it or Phoenix ice raids, wait, hold on one second. I wanna Yeah, I don't see anything coming up, like, just the same, like, they're planning ice raids in major cities. So, like, I don't see any, like, big operation that happened yesterday, and I didn't hear about it. So, I'm not saying that it doesn't mean ICE was not operating in Phoenix yesterday. Like, I mean, ice raids are very, 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 very common in Phoenix. But like ice raids on the scale that Trump is talking about, these are different, and like we used to have them in Arizona all the time when we had SB 1070, which is basically like stop and frisk type situation. Like, oh, that person's too brown. Let's accuse them of not being from here type of situation. And yeah, so we used to have those type of raids. And so there were checkpoints like on the roads. Are you, Mandy? Will you speak? Because I don't think I can hear you.
Sorry, Dani, I was
I
muted.
need to change. Give me 1 second. Make sure the audio mixer is on the right settings. Because I just realized I can't hear myself either. Oh
I
yeah,
can't hear Mandy.
it's me. It's me. It's me. Hello. 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 Okay. I hope I don't have to. Oh wait, now I did it with. Sorry, hold on 1 second. My bad.
I'm eating lunch, y'all, so I'm going to mute and unmute because I need snacks.
Okay, speak now, Mandy. I mean, Mandy, Dani.
Can you hear me now?
Why? Hold on, let me make sure. I have it on monitor and output, so it should be fine. I just realized all of the sound settings reset. Okay, say something now.
Hey.
Monitor. Hear the audio source. Hello, hello, hello. Testing. I can hear myself. I just can't see changing in the speakers. Let me make sure. Monitor and output. Both you and your viewers will hear your audio source. Save. Dani, will you drop and join again? Because I don't know if because I changed the settings while we're on here that could make a difference. It might. Because I just realized, yeah, TikTok Studio went away, so all of my audio settings were erased. It was delete. It's one of the ByteDance apps that was deleted over the weekend, along with CapCut or whatever they did to it. Reset it, like turned it off and turned it back on, and now everything is different. You guys could hear her? Could you guys hear her? Okay, cool. Let me. Pew, pew, pew. Yeah, it should be fine now. Monitor and output. You will hear. Save. I don't know why I can't hear you. Oh, unmute. Oh my gosh, I did not want to deal with this right now. Can you guys hear her? Can you guys
Hey,
hear
guys.
Dani? Yeah, so it's just me. I can't figure.
I'm going to drop and come back one more time, y'all, because now my interface looks funky.
Dani just drop again? Oh, I need someone to join so I can figure out why I can't hear really quick. And we don't have that much time. This is so weird because live quality, scene transition, advanced audio settings. And I remember this now. It was never any of these things I had to do. Maybe I should just quickly restart. Here, let me. Yeah, I can't. Okay, just keep talking, guys, while I just play with.
I can hear you, Joanna.
Speaker setting. Here, let me. Oh, I know what it probably. Hold on. I remember when
Say that again, Joanna. I'm sorry.
Set this up. Yep. Sorry. I'll have this fixed in 1 second.
The snacks are good. It is snowing here in Florida, so we're all losing our mind. We're getting like 6 inches of snow. It hasn't snowed like this since the 70s. We can hear each other.
Yay! Sorry, it's fucking 19 degrees in Arkansas. I'm like, okay, northern states, can you come get your weather back? We didn't ask for it. Nobody asked for this shit.
Hello.
Come get it. It's so cold. And I thought, there's no way we're going to get snow. Like, we don't get snow. It's Florida. I live in Florida. We don't get snow. Y'all, it is snowing hard out there.
No.
Got me. School's canceled. I mean, they canceled it because they whispered about snow down here. You know, like if someone even just like whispers snow, they're like, we got to cancel.
Yeah, I have an echo. Hold on 1 second. I got to figure this. It's my microphone.
while we're getting all of our tech issues figured out,
Is that better?
y'all tap the screen. Y'all are going a little bit slow today, and I need y'all to do better.
Is the echo better now? Yeah, I think it is. Sorry, this is not my fault. TikTok erased TikTok Studio and my audio settings were erased. It's not my fault. Blame TikTok for turning off their app so Trump could look like a hero.
Yeah, somebody just posted in the chat, like, that's exactly what it is. If we needed any more reassurance that we were actually in hell, the fact that there's snowstorms in Louisiana and Florida and Texas again, and we know the grid's going to go down. I wonder where Cancun Cruise is going this time. Yeah, hell is freezing over. We are in hell. Congratulations. Everybody tap the screen, share the live out. We're at 91 shares. I need y'all to get that shit up quick. These likes are not liking. Get those fingers tapping, especially if you're somewhere cold like me and Dani. It's going to help warm you up a bit. Get those fingers going. Fly them across the screen. We're all very annoyed and upset. Take your anger out on the screen. Although Felice Navidad Incorporated is not responsible for any cracks done to your screen by your tapping. But we do appreciate your efforts. Make sure that you're actively participating in the chat. We have the live goal up there. It's just 5 little lipsticks. We can knock that out. Hopefully y'all still have coins left from the blackout of TikTok that we had over this weekend. If you don't, you can go recharge online or in a browser. So if you want to do that, please do so. Although the best way to support her and Dr. Dani is to make their Cash Apps and Venmos ding. We have Dr. Dani's information to the left of her at the bottom. In bed with Danielle. Somewhere I feel like all of us want to be, right? And then we have Felice's at the top. And a girl has no name at Cash App and Venmo. If you want them to read something little cutesy, then they'll do that. Make sure that it's cutesy, though. Don't try any bullshit, because I'll mute and block you today. I'm not with any of the shit, okay? Keep tapping, keep sharing. Love y'all. Keep chapping, yapping in the chat. We appreciate y'all for being here. And yes, I am a silly gingerbread today, because we just elected a fascist, and we had a Klan rally on live television, complete with salutes. We're in hell. Keep tapping, y'all. Love you.
Thank you, Joanna. Anyways. Okay, so let's get to it. I was just gonna say this, my neighbor did not have these up. Yes, this was not up yesterday. This was now in my neighbor's yard yesterday, like during the inauguration and after. Yeah, it's absolutely infuriating. It's not, America is no longer a safe place for women, is the long and short of it. But I wanted to talk, Dani, and maybe you can speak to it better. I mean, maybe, absolutely can speak to it better than me. But some of the things we were discussing this morning, like, and how this is going to affect healthcare. Trump is again signing executive orders and signaling he wants to pull out of the World Health Organization. So do you want to speak to some of the consequences of that, since you're a healthcare practitioner?
So this is, y'all, the World Health Organization is part of the United Nations. And one of their big things, like, since this just happened recently, one of their big things is taking care of disease and illness that kind of spreads globally. What is something that we all just experienced? The pandemic. So the World Health Organization was a really big organization that helped us with the pandemic. They helped with vaccine development. They helped with protocol. They helped with isolation. Like, these are countries that come together. It's based in Geneva, and all these countries come together to talk about world health. Big surprise, right? Any health things that can impact a country or that can impact the world. When monkeypox was a big thing and it was spreading, the monkeypox vaccine and who got to get it and all that kind of stuff. These are things that are talked about at the World Health Organization. And the fact that we just pulled out of this, the fact that Trump just cut us off from that, first of all, I don't even know if he can. The United States is a major funder of the World Health Organization. We we are the major funder, right? Of all the countries that help with funding for the World Health Organization, we are the top one, right? And there are agreements about that.
160 million to 815 million every year. It's about their yearly budget is about 2 billion to 3 billion. Losing U.S. funding could cripple numerous global health initiatives. Yeah. I mean, we are the primary funder, just like we pretty much are the funder of everything in the UN.
So this is a major deal. Like it's not just a big deal for us. It's a big deal for other countries. If they lose a lot of their funding, they lose their ability to do public health education stuff. And they lose their funding to do a lot of the research, to disseminate a lot of information. Like, this is a really bad thing. And I don't even know if we can do that, right? There's certain rules and agreements that the US has about funding this and about being part of the UN. And if the US wants to pull out, there's certain steps that need to be taken, right? Like, per the agreement. So Trump coming in and just signing this executive order and saying, we're out, the spider web of issues that this causes, right? Like, think of a rock hitting your windshield and it's got like a crack, and then that spider webs and it affects a lot of other things. This is going to affect a lot of other things. And the fact that he's just trying to like cold turkey pull out, that might have some consequences for us.
Some major consequences. I mean, I think that's the point, though, right? American agencies that work with the World Health Organization would also suffer, including the CDC, which I think is the point, right? Trump has long talked about getting rid of the CDC. This is not new. This is something that's been going on for a long time. Leaving the World Health Organization would exclude the U.S. from World Health Organization coordinated initiatives like determining the yearly composition of flu vaccines and quick access to genetic databases run by the World Health Organization, which could stall attempts to produce immunizations and medicines in the United States.
And us pulling out seriously reduces their capacity for early disease detection, this is a warning system, right? The World Health Organization also works as a warning system. So as COVID-19, we all know it began in China, right? But then it started to spread. And then we started to see illness in other countries. And then we realized that this thing is actually incredibly contagious and is spreading quickly. That warning comes from the World Health Organization. That's who tracks this stuff and follows this stuff worldwide, right? And the reason that this exists is because we recognized the need for interconnectedness when it came to world health. Because a disease that pops up in China can end up impacting all of us in a international worldwide pandemic. The warning, even just the warning system for someone to sound the alarm and say, hey, this is becoming a global thing. That's the World Health Organization. Vaccine funding for vaccine development and research. A lot of that comes from the World Health Organization. And it's not always us that develops a vaccine or a treatment to something, right? Researchers, experts in other countries do that as well. That funding often comes from the World Health Organization. And we need this. We need other researchers in other countries. This is how we come together as collective healthcare leaders and say, how can we pool our resources, pool our brains, pool our expertise with the goal of having a healthier world? And the US is the major funder for that. And if we pull out, that doesn't just undo, like, the CDC is kind of our organization here within the United States, right? That doesn't just undo our vaccine funding, our vaccine dissemination. Like Felice said, the flu vaccine, that's redone every year. It's redone every year based on predictions, because we look at past data and trends and we look forward and we say, okay, we think influenza B is going to be the most prominent flu strain this year. So the flu vaccine this year is going to contain a vaccine for influenza B. How do we come up with that? Because we have data. We pool that data and then we disseminate that information, and then we make educated predictions on what the most likely strain is going to be, right? Like, that's what this stuff is funding. I don't know if you're going to have a flu vaccine next year. I don't know how accurate or good that flu vaccine is going to be. I don't know what our vaccine schedule is going to look like looking forward, right? Like, this affects a lot of stuff.
I know it's disturbing on many, many levels. I was reading through this article again. All of this is in today's outline. Thank you so much for the lipstick. Love you too. This is in today's outline. If you would like to join the Discord, Felice Navidad Live is just a TikTok account like my Girl Has No Name one. Just send a message to it and say, get me a link to the Discord and I will get you one. Oh yeah, actually, and never mind. Not never mind. You can do that as well. But when TikTok went down, right now in my link tree, so you can just click through on A Girl Has No Name. In my link tree, there is a link to join the Discord as well, which doesn't expire. I'll probably take it down in the next couple of days. I put it up when TikTok went down and there was going to be no way ever again to have people join the Discord this way. So also you can join the Discord through a link in my link tree as well right now. And then I want to say thanks, Vic, Cricket, Daniel is subscribed on YouTube, Vic and Cricket and JCH subscribed on Twitch. Thank you so much. Appreciate, or followed. Sorry, I think they're follows on Twitch. I'll get it right. This is the next thing I think we should discuss. Yeah. Thoughts?
No, go ahead, because this is all going to tie in together.
No, this is literally the government website offering reproductive health information went dark.
So I think this is interesting, particularly as we pull out of the World Health Organization. So remember, a big piece of the World Health Organization is sharing information, sharing what works, sharing what's going well. The U.S. has that's a lie. The U.S. has the highest, by far, maternal mortality rate of any developed nation. Maternal mortality is death related to or stemming from pregnancy, right? We have the highest. Ours is around 24 right now. The next nearest country is like 8, and that's like France. So one of the things that happens at the World Health Organization is this exchange of information. So countries like the Netherlands, who have really, really low maternal mortality rates, share with US experts, this is what we've done. This is how we've lowered these rates. This is what we do to support new and birthing parents, right? So it's this exchange of information, and it's also research, funding for research on why is maternal mortality so high? What are issues that are linked to that, right? We know that our lack of universal health care is linked to that. Our inability for people to access prenatal care is linked to that. Systemic racism is linked to that. That's all research, and it's all information that gets exchanged at the World Health Organization. Interestingly, the United Nations, which, remember, the World Health Organization, yes, we pulled out of the World Health Organization. For anyone that just joined, Trump last night signed an executive order pulling us out of the World Health Organization, who is a subset of the United Nations. When we issued our abortion bans, a couple months after Roe fell and all of these abortion bans came into place, we wrote a letter to the United Nations saying, please step in. This is going to increase maternal mortality. This is going to increase infant mortality, and it's going to increase morbidity, right? Long-term chronic health issues for people that were pregnant or that are pregnant or recently pregnant. This affects maternal mortality. Pulling out of the World Health Organization impacts our ability to fund research in maternal mortality. It impacts our ability to share information with other countries about what we're doing wrong, what they're doing right. It impacts their ability to give us information and help on reducing our maternal mortality. And then he took down reproductiverights.gov. Reproductiverights.gov was just a website that gave people reproductive health access information, right? It was just an information website. They took it down. This is the beginning of the absolute, I don't even know what to call it. We are just putting a bomb in women's health and just imploding it across our country. Our mortality rates are going to shoot up. They're not going to track our mortality rates anymore. So we're not even going to have good mortality numbers, which is probably a big reason why we pulled out of the World Health Organization. Because part of that is us keeping track of numbers and research, right? And they don't want to do that anymore.
Absolutely. I could not, I mean, truly. And when we talk about we're not tracking maternal mortality, remember, it's what we talked about. Trump said, this is states' rats, brother. That's the point. And if you are accidentally born in the wrong state and you're a woman, you no longer have rights. And we know that disproportionately in these states in the South where there is a maternal, one of the largest or the largest maternal desert forming, we know in rural Texas, women are now an hour away, right? A driving distance from, I'm not talking about AB care. I'm talking about an OBGYN period. Women in rural Texas are more than an hour away from any type of care from an OBGYN. So all of this is tied together. And right, these very strict AB bans that are going on in these maternal deserts, and as well as we remember the study we looked at, pregnancy as a crime, right? How they are literally criminalizing women for being pregnant. Imagine one of the biggest crimes that pregnant women are facing is not getting prenatal care. But now we know in these maternal deserts that women are more than an hour away from an OBGYN. So how could they get prenatal care? And that's a crime. Sorry, Mandy, go ahead.
And so, no, don't be sorry. I interrupted you. I apologize. I just, my brain got ahead of me. Hi, everybody. I promise I'm going to do makeup while we talk, so maybe I can go on camera. But right now I feel
calming. I've seen you put your makeup on live before.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll.
You're just really good at it. Do a get ready with me video while we talk about our lives falling apart.
This is how I operate every day. Fake it till you make it, right? Put on your best, whatever makes you feel most confident, because makeup doesn't necessarily mean you feel good. It's for each their own. But what I wanted to say to that, and now I lost my train of thought. Help me. What were you just saying?
I was talking about maternal healthcare deserts and hours drive away from pregnancy.
Keep in mind, these laws with making pregnancy a crime, they will, if you don't get the healthcare they think you should be getting to care for your pregnancy. So if you are a pregnant woman who is unable to get the care they need because it is hours away and you have a miscarriage or a complication that results in losing the pregnancy, these laws are already, we're seeing language in laws that will make it your fault and will criminalize that miscarriage. So they're creating a dynamic where they're demanding you get a certain level of care, but because of their laws, that level of care may not be available to you in a reasonable distance. And then because you're not able to get that care or afford to get somewhere to get that care and you have a complication or you have a miscarriage, now the law, there are laws now, or at least language in laws that they are attempting to pass, that would then criminalize you because you were a victim of the laws that made it too hard to get the care you needed. You cannot fucking win. It's a lose-lose. And they know that and they don't care. And I came into this halfway through. So I'm going to catch up, but it's barbaric. I live in rural Wisconsin. Rural fucking, we don't have DoorDash, people. Some people don't understand. We don't have DoorDash. We don't have Uber. I live 45 minutes from any major store, whatever. And in a city, that might not seem so bad because people drive a long way with traffic, but literally middle of nowhere. And so I can't get groceries delivered. I live in a time gone by, time past, right? In Wisconsin, we already have to drive quite a distance to get that sort of care. When I was pregnant 18 years ago, I would have to drive 45 minutes to the nearest doctor. That was just expected. Then, and now you add with the 1849 law that they would love to have in place here in Wisconsin. And we have an incredibly important election coming up here in April or in February and then in April for our Supreme Court. The law in 1849 required you to not have one, but I believe it was two, not three, but definitely at least two physicians to write off that your life was your unaliving was imminent. That you had to have not one, but two qualified physicians signing off on that before they could provide you with an AB. it's nearly fucking impossible to get one qualified physician in time here. And we're talking your unaliving's imminent. So you don't have time to like doctor shop. You don't have time to seek that second opinion. This is the kind of thing where you're fucked essentially as a woman, because you can't get that. And the more that they pass these bills and they restrict these restrictive laws, the fewer doctors we have for that. So they're creating, again, it comes down to the exceptions being inactionable, right? And that's just the reality. And that was the reality before yesterday. And now it's only getting worse. It's only going to get worse.
And to build on what Mandy's saying, like the World Health Organization sets global standards for maternal care. So they get together and they set global standards for maternal health care, right? And this is a good thing. This is a good thing. We want baseline standards for maternal health care, right? We want to use evidence-based practice to put these global standards out there. That's how we got, like, we always say the standard for a septic uterus is an AB, right? Like, we have standards of care, and one of the way those global standards of care are developed are through the World Health Organization. And those global standards then influence domestic healthcare policies, right? We get together at the World Health Organization, everyone chit chats, what's going well, what's not working, what increases, what decreases maternal mortality. What are the evidence-based practice standards of care? What does the most updated research say? Do we need to update our standards of care accordingly? And then that influences domestic policy. We now have the nation with the highest maternal mortality rate, us, just pulled out of the World Health Organization. So this creates kind of a bit of a paradox, right? The country with the highest maternal mortality rate is now stepping back from the organization whose primary goal is to reduce maternal mortality. What do you think is going to happen?
And the rate is per 100,000. You know, how many women in the United States per 100,000 instances
People.
of labor or unalived. Yeah. Like, or live births. Okay. So, of live births. Thank you. I didn't know that. It's the rate of 100,000 live births. How many women are unalive during that? And it's horrifying to think about. And I wanted to call out Adina because she made a great comment. She said, it's just like an abusive relationship. Now they're trying to isolate us from the world. And I think that's absolutely what's happening. And Dani is explaining that in real time, right? When we have the highest rate of in the developed world of maternal mortality, and we know that, and then we know since the Dobbs decision and these crazy AB bans in red states, we know the maternal mortality rate there is skyrocketing, right? And the answer is not, oh, this is a crisis, we need to help women. The answer for conservative policy, because they love to protect women and children, is let's hide the truth. Oh, we have this very obvious problem. Let's fire everyone on the Maternal Mortality Review Committee in Alabama because there was a leak showing us that, these unalivings could have been disproportionately or could have been stopped, right? They were preventable. They were ruled as preventable unalivings. We don't know who leaked that to ProPublica, so let's fire everyone. In Texas, we can see our maternal mortality rate is skyrocketing. It's being reported on. The people are reporting on all of these women like Nevaeh Crane. And who was the first one, Dani? I'm sorry, I forget. Who was the first woman that you...
Yenny Alvarez was the first one.
I don't want to forget her. Yes, Yenny Alvarez and things of that nature who are preventable unalivings in Texas. And their answer is, hey, these years where it's very clear and it's becoming clear through really good investigative journalism that there's been a lot of unalivings and the maternal mortality rate is skyrocketing due to this AB ban, we're not going to review those cases for those years. We're just going to have a complete blackout of data, right? That is an abusive relationship. And we are people, I just want to stress, we are people who consume so much news, right? We are very concerned with the truth. We are overeducated. The average person has no idea any of this is happening. None. Nothing Trump did yesterday. I think the average person in America does not understand that any of this is happening. It is your job to educate people. We all have to.
I would be willing to bet that my family members that voted for Trump don't have any idea what executive orders he signed yesterday. None. They probably know about the raids, right? The immigration raids, and they probably love it. They probably think that's great. But they know what the flash talking points on the news are. That's it. At best, right? At best.
I mean, I think I was thinking about this. I don't want to think about any of this for my mental health. I probably shouldn't be, but I was thinking about this morning. I think probably the only thing that is disturbing people today is probably those J6 pardons and commutations. Maybe there are still some sane people in America who are like, hey, that is extremely, extremely disturbing and wrong. But outside of that, like,
I think that this is just the beginning too, right? Go ahead.
That was Trump. That just means someone follow me. Thank you so much for following. And please subscribe. I'm like 50. I've dropped way below 500 subscriptions again. If you would like to subscribe, it would be much, much appreciated. But yeah, no.
Yeah, I think people unsubscribed when they thought the app was going to go away. So hopefully people will. Because I noticed, because even I did that with a couple of my subscriptions because I didn't want to get charged. But I've gone back and resubscribed. So
yeah, resubscribe if you can. I would highly appreciate it. But yeah, I was just gonna say, like, that even Dani, like, this is my thing I want to stress, and I don't recommend people even read this article on it. I don't think it's on Trump pulling out of the World Health Organization. I don't even think it's informative. Like, and I could have named a few ways that this is damaging, but even listening to Dani describe as a doctor, you know, we have a doctor here who can describe the interconnectedness of all this and how it's going to hurt us all. And you know what I mean? Even I couldn't have verbalized it in that way. And we have one of the most intelligent people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing here to explain this to us. So imagine the general public. What does this mean? Trump has spread so much propaganda and they have spread so much misinformation about the World Health Organization, the CDC. People believe this is a good thing.
I don't even think most people know what the World Health Organization probably does, right? And they look at that, and I can already see what the rhetoric is going to be, right? The fact that we are a major funder of the World Health Organization. America first, America first. You can't be a world leader if you don't give a shit about anybody else, right? And our funding of the World Health Organization, like, we know that hemorrhaging, preeclampsia, cardiac issues are major killers of people that are pregnant, right? Who's doing research on that? The World Health Organization. Who's doing research on, like, we found out a couple years ago that preeclampsia, this is going to get really complex, and so I'm not going to go down that road. But, like, preeclampsia has something to do with your body rejecting certain cells and things like that, right? There's a whole list of research on it that's really interesting. But that stuff comes from the World Health Organization. So our involvement in the World Health Organization and our funding of it doesn't just reduce our maternal mortality rates, it reduces them globally. It allows for more research and more treatment in developing nations to reduce maternal mortality, right? So it's good for us. It's good for them. It is an exchange of information and learning, and it's a way for us globally to elevate healthcare and have better and best evidence-based practices. The fact that we're pulling out of this says, number one, we don't give a shit about anybody else. Number two, we don't care about the research. Number three, fuck your evidence-based practices. We don't care. Like, it's so egotistical and so narcissistic that, of course, this is coming from Trump.
And women will be unalived from this, right? Disproportionately. This is it, we are already in a crisis, and now they're saying, "Hey, the data is starting to come out. People are going to realize that, like, how bad women are in a bad way. So let's hide the data. Let's
And
make
just
it
a little
harder
housekeeping.
to get to."
I noticed some comments about people aren't able to subscribe. They think it has to do with it not being in the App Store. Because the way that you subscribe, you have to put like a payment option, and you can't use like Apple Pay because Apple, like, TikTok's not being supported by any of the App Store apps right now. So that might be why you're not getting more subscribers right now. Just a heads up, because they can't pay.
Oh, okay. I see
sense?
what you're saying. Yeah, no, all I can see is in TikTok Studio that I can like set the goals. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, no. Somebody was commenting that they can't. And I remember getting some messages from people regarding like even TikTok shop sales are problematic because not everything is linked now with it not being in the App Store and it not being supported in the App Store. So make sure you guys are looking up above. We got where you can send tips and support with gifts.
Yeah, the Cash App, this is Cash App and Venmo for me. Mandy and Dani's are down there. So please do support us, because that really upsets me. It's like basically the only way I get reoccurring income. And is this going to be for the whole 90-day extension? So like,
and I'll put this right out there. I appreciate y'all if you send me anything, but go and send it to Felice, because this is impacting her with these subscriptions way more than it is me right now. Because this particular revenue stream is not something I have to rely on. I have other ways, but please send them to her. She does all the heavy lifting on this.
No, but I'm saying, like, I wonder, are they not going to put it back in the Apple Store? Like,
I don't know. And I think that's something that people need to realize. We are still under a ban. Like, it is still banned as long as it's not in the App Store. So first of all, can we just give a shout out to anybody who was so hardcore they took it off their phone within that 12 hours? Because I bet you I saw a video of someone being like, I bet your cutoff game is like hard, like epic. Like if you cut someone out, you're done. Because people just like got rid of the app. Because I have a friend who did that, and they're like, I thought it was glitchy, so I got rid of it. I'm like, oh no! And luckily they have it on their iPad, but still, like, yeah, until it's in the App Store, it is still in a ban. Like this is that extended time that we were all expecting to have, that they were going to ban it, it'd be out of the App Store, and we could use it until it got too glitchy and we couldn't update it. That's literally what we're living in right now. And I think that's kind of getting ignored, missed, because Trump acted like this big hero, but he didn't say shit. It's just we're waiting until it's too glitchy at this point. But I don't know. I know that there's been emails coming out for TikTok shop people being like, I know there are certain things not working. We're working on getting that replaced. I'm hoping it's the same thing with getting it in the App Store and getting you access to subscriptions again. Because obviously we want to make sure that we do that. And if it gets down to it, Felice, I can talk to Matt, USMC Angry Veteran, because he's got something set up now in their Discord where you can subscribe to the Discord.
Oh no, yeah, I just set up levels there. There's other, and then yeah, I was also gonna say I also just set up a Substack. Just go through my link tree and subscribe to everything. I set up set up a Substack. I'm gonna start doing like some writing too, which you can subscribe to my Substack. It's a girl has no name. Same name.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to disrupt this. I just want people to know that there are ways to support you. There are ways to, like, if this, we'll work around this app however we can to make sure that, we can continue to be supported and support Felice and support Dani, and make sure that, because honestly, guys, like, this is impacting everybody that uses this as a revenue source, as their job. This is our job. So
yeah, I
however you guys can support is appreciated. And if you can't, just being here, liking, tapping, I know I'm not a mod, but I'm just like throwing this shit out there right now. But however you can support, like, it supports us. Like, tapping is clapping, showing love. These are the things that really, really do help the live if you can't afford to, especially if you're financially like, I can't afford to support in a financial way. Being here is supporting. Engaging is supporting. Helping, sharing, those things are supporting. So please know that we're not saying give us what you don't have. We would never ask that. So anyway, back on topic. I'm so sorry. I'm so annoyed with all of these little things that we're having to navigate right now.
I didn't even know
it was all
about
unnecessary.
This makes me so like, I mean, that's like devastating to me. Like that, I swear I didn't even know that until you just said it. But yeah, the best way to support us will be Cash App and Venmo. Thank you guys so much for your support. You guys are amazing to me and always have been. I got 2 Substack subscribers. Yay. Thank you guys for subscribing to me on Substack. I so appreciate it. Okay, I wanted to read some of this stuff, like what was on this reproductive site that went dark yesterday. It's like the Know Your Rights patient fact sheets. Reproductive health care, including access to birth control and safe and legal abortion care, is an essential part of your health and well-being. You know, like it's all of that information that's on this site. The site affirmed that most employer-based healthcare, it gave you information about your own insurance, that they had to essentially pay for certain prescriptions of birth control, and which ones were those because of the Affordable Care Act, right? It also displayed a list of other services covered by most insurance plans, like breast and cervical cancer screenings, prenatal care, and HIV screenings. Like it's essentially cutting women off from information about their own bodies that could be the difference between whether they live or die.
And I think this is something, remember that they're going to be taking away birth control, y'all. We talked last week about these pro-women's health centers. HR 7 specifically says that pro-women's health centers are going to be the norm. Pro-women's health centers do not supply any contraceptives. The only contraceptives that are supplied there is natural fertility awareness method, like the rhythm method that you've heard Catholics use and stuff like that, right? This is not a good method of birth control. It is not a recommended method. Look, if someone wants to use that because they're like, I just want to learn more about my own body and I don't necessarily care if I get pregnant, great. Do that. Learn about your own body. Or if somebody's not sexually active and they're like, I just want to see if I can tell when I ovulate, or if I'm ovulating at a regular time interval, right? If your ovulation is more regular, great. I think that's lovely, especially if you're like, I want to get pregnant at some point in my life. Great. Figure out when you ovulate. Figure out if it's at a regular interval. This is not a good way to actively prevent pregnancy. The only reason you should use the rhythm method is if you don't really care that much about the outcome, right? But outside of that, they will not be able to offer any contraceptives. One of the things that we are predicting coming down from that is that the only way as a women's healthcare provider that you will be able to accept Medicare or Medicaid, specifically Medicaid, is if you're a pro-women's health center. If you follow all of the requirements of being a pro-women's health center, which means you cannot provide contraceptives, and women's health must take into account men, right? So you will not have the right to make your own choices about your body and your fertility because it will affect your male partner. So any decisions about your future health or your future fertility or anything like that are going to have to be cleared through a male partner. Medicaid is the main #1 payer in the United States of perinatal care. If you cannot operate under Medicaid, usually clinics have to close down because they're the main payer. So part of this website, reproductivehealthaccess.gov or reproductiverights.gov, being taken down is because your insurance is no longer going to be covering contraceptives. They're at least not going to be required to. And very particularly, if you are on Medicaid or if you're going to have to be on Medicaid in order to give birth, they're not going to be able to provide contraceptives. So this website talking about how, according to the Affordable Care Act, your employer's insurance has to provide contraceptive care, that's not going to be a thing anymore. Trump has blatantly said that he's going to take that away, that he doesn't believe that the ACA should have to cover contraceptives. That is a step in us getting to this place where any healthcare provider that accepts Medicaid cannot provide contraceptives. This is anybody, right? Someone saying like, is this married or if you have a boyfriend? This will be anybody. This will be anybody. If you're single right? Like you're not married, you don't have a boyfriend, nothing like that, and you go get women's health care, you'll be able to get health care. You'll be able to get a pap smear, but you won't be able to get sterilization. You won't be able to get contraceptives. You won't be able to do anything that impacts your fertility.
Do they have the votes for this? What do you mean? I mean, yeah, they can do anything they want. Are you talking about the Republicans? They all support it.
I think it's the idea of like, does this have to go before Congress? And Trump has said that he'll issue an executive order for it, right? He'll issue an executive order for the ACA thing, the Affordable Care Act, that they don't have to cover insurance anymore. And if HR 7 goes through, questioning, do we have the votes for HR 7? Yeah, I think we do. I think we do. It'll be narrow in certain circumstances, but I think we do.
I think, and I'll say this again and again, you'll hear me say this, and we talked about this in the last episode of the People's Receipts. One of the best things that Trump ever did for our team was last week, because he's mad that Mike Turner condemned him for having classified documents. You know, Mike Turner, he's one of the most powerful and most intelligent members of the Republican House. He was the chair of the Foreign Intelligence Committee. This man anyways, long story short, Trump ousted him last week. We're talking about they have a 2-seat majority, and you ousted someone who's not going to go quietly into that good night. Like, we are talking about someone that might not vote with the Republicans in the House anymore. And as Trump's ego forces him to alienate more people, like, all the better for us. Like, Mike Turner, we respect you. I don't like a lot of things you believe, but I know you did good work on the Foreign Intelligence Committee. Sure, vote with us. Ruin Trump's life. He has nothing to lose now.
Somebody asked in the... Oh, go ahead, Mandy. I'll let you go.
No, I just say, yeah, his ego is going to be, as it always is with them, their ego's their undoing, right? Like, he's going to continue to get mad at people who don't fall in line, and all the better for us at this point. Like, that's what we have to hope for, because that will benefit us. But it doesn't change the fact that they still have that majority. And to Dani's point, it'll be narrow, but too many of them fall in line.
I think Dani wants to answer a medical question, but let me just say one more thing really quick, because I want people to understand the power of the executive order. And what people are saying is, oh, this means nothing. Right? Like, this means nothing. But, like, first of all, just set aside the fact he does have control of the legislative branch. He has no respect for them. He's like the de facto House Speaker at this point. So I do believe he can force new laws through Congress pretty easily. Like, I mean, the way they voted to fund the government when none of them wanted to anyways. Like, to make Mike Johnson speaker when none of them wanted him, I think is proof that Trump's got to throw his weight around. But I'm talking about in the executive branch now, and these executive orders. This is what Trump wants. This is one of the strategies of Project 2025. It's, hey, just like Joe Biden just confirmed 25% of the federal judiciary, so did Trump. Right? Biden only beat him in confirming federal judges, I think, by literally like 2 or something. Like, Trump has a quarter of the federal judiciary, and he has the Supreme Court. And what they are saying is, fine, beat us in court. You could try. We hold the Supreme Court. So if it gets that far, good luck. So he's going to issue executive order after executive order. Think about Biden's executive order at the border. Encounters from December 2023 to December 2024 dropped by 75%, all while the ACLU in real time was pushing lawsuits through the federal courts to stop him. Did it ever happen? No. So Trump saying, good luck winding through the courts. Don't run into a Trump appointed judge, or don't run into one of the appeal circuits that I control. And if we get to the Supreme Court, I'm betting on me. So
it's a good bet.
I bet on, I mean, I'm a betting person and I bet on him too in this situation. So I think people need to understand that I was going through a lot of articles this morning, even though it's bad for my health and I should probably take a week off. And I was noticing a lot of reporters and things saying, oh, he can't do that. He could do it for a long time. And then it might get to the Supreme Court. And then what happens? They say, hey, if you want to keep doing this, change the law. And here's how. That's what Clarence Thomas and Alito and Gorsuch and Kavanaugh do. They're like, here's what I would change if you did want to do this. And then they push it through the legislative branch that Trump has in a chokehold. So like, please think about where we're at and all the levers that he can control at this point.
And my comment's not so much on a medical question, but it is on a comment that someone left in the chat. And I pulled up my notes because I'm like, I can actually really quickly answer this. So I travel around and teach a lot on like healthcare policy, women's policy, and things like that. So someone in the chat asked, can we do a show on on Iran and the Islamic Revolution there and how women lost rights? Because I think a lot of people know, and they've seen photos of like women in Iran wearing skirts and their hair is free and they're at university, right? So y'all, I can do that in 60 seconds. I pulled up my notes from a lecture. In 1979, we had the Islamic Revolution that was overthrowing the government, and it led to the establishment of the Islamic Republic. In the exact same year, in 1979, they repealed the Family Protection Law. That Family Protection Law very specifically protected women's rights in marriage, divorce, child custody, and gave them a lot more equal footing. The removal of that Family Protection Law also reduced the legal age of marriage down to 9. So then girls as young as 9 were able to get married. We're still in 1979, y'all. This happened in 1979. All that happened within 1 year. In 1980, we see the hijab mandate, where it mandated that everybody had to wear a hijab. And then between 1980 and 1983, we saw a lot of move to purge Western influences. So this is when coeducation was abolished. Women were no longer, girls and women were no longer allowed in upper education, and they could not be co-educated with boys. This is when we really started to see gender segregation in schools and public places. And then the Islamic Penal Code was introduced between 1979 and 1980, which was based on Sharia law. It took them less than 4 years. It took them less than 4 years to completely undo absolutely everything. Now, there was a lot of stuff that happened after that, right? The morality police, like everyone's kind of heard about the morality police. That stuff came later on, right? That came in like the 2000s. But in general, in order for them to completely flip everything and undo generations of women's rights, took them about 3 years.
I don't even know what this. I mean, I know this story. That's why there's so many, like huge Persian like enclaves in the United States. It was people fleeing Iran. Like that's why they're here and cannot still. Many of them to this day go back.
And I think a lot of people. Sorry, y'all. I'm still eating lunch. I think a lot of people don't realize it did not take long. It took less than a 4-year presidency.
Yeah, it's terrifying, truly terrifying to think about. And that's why I say like this the reproductive, like informational website disappears. I mean, is just the first like salvo of it. I wanted to, let's talk about this one. Trump repeals rule allowing transgender troops in the military.
This is insane.
Yeah, I concur with that statement. Like, he issued a ban during his first administration, which I think is important. But like, what he was doing was undoing an executive order by Joe Biden, right? Like I screenshotted like 100 of these just because I don't think we should go through all of them. But this is basically all of what Biden had done that he undid yesterday. And just screenshot this and you can look it up later. But if you scroll through them, combating discrimination on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation, right? Advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. I mean, if you are brown or black, if you are multiracial, if you are a woman, if you are part of the LGBTQIA, if you are part of a minority group in any way, any and everything Biden did to help you, Trump undead.
And I think it's only going to be, I think this is the beginning. Remember, we had don't ask, don't tell at one point in time where you couldn't openly serve as gay in the military. I imagine we're going to see that again. Something that I find really terrifying is, and this is something that I have not seen this covered in the news yet. I have worked for the military. I live in a city that is very heavily military. We have a huge military base here. Fully 6 to 8% of our military is gay. 6 to 8%. That's not a low number. I would even say it's probably closer to 10% because there are still people that are operating under the radar and that are not out. Computers. But y'all, it is not uncommon in any given unit to probably have 3 to 5 people that are on pepper prep, which is pre-exposure prophylactics or post-exposure prophylactics, right? So if I'm just going to make up a scenario. If I'm a gay, If I'm a gay, keep me from contracting HIV, right? It will protect me from contracting HIV. This is a really big way that we have reduced HIV transmission in the United States and in the world. Guess what? Thanks, World Health Organization. Just saying. Okay.
Thanks taxpayer dollars that paid for all of it, and then a pharmaceutical company bought the rights to it and now overcharges people.
Insanely overcharges, right? But we remember, like, the AIDS pandemic was a big thing. The World Health Organization, right? Like, this is why we need these things. So if they come out with don't ask, don't tell again, one of the things that we know that they've been targeting is pepper prep for military members, because in their mind, only gay people, particularly only gay men, take pepper prep, which isn't true, right? Anybody can take it. I could take it if it was something that I felt that I was potentially going to be exposed to it, right? So anybody can take it, but they're talking about removing the ability for military members to access pepper prep through TRICARE and through the military. This is not an uncommon thing. Like I said, in any given unit, you probably have 3 to 5 people that are taking it. What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, don't try to make it make sense. Like, read. These are to tackle the climate crisis. I mean, we pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords, right? Like, I mean, if you read the other countries that aren't in it, I mean, I think I screenshotted it because I'm laughing.
We're
so I don't.
Embarrassing.
No, civil immigration revision of civil immigration enforcement and policies, ensuring equitable pandemic response and recovery, meaning, hey, we should care about the less fortunate during a global crisis. We don't need any of that. Let's repeal that. Protecting worker health and safety. Tell me this isn't an oligarchy. This is where we're at. Supporting all the preschools and the way we paid for underserved people to have their children in preschool. And we know through studies, as someone that used to work in education, that children that go to preschool do much better than children who do not go to preschool. It's a huge determining factor in upward mobility, right? You can read those. Supporting the reopening and continuing operation of schools and early childhood education providers. Let's repeal that. That makes sense, right? Sorry, we shouldn't care about that. Protecting the federal workforce, that's Schedule F, right? repealing all of the rights that were protecting the federal workforce from things like Schedule F. Those have been repealed.
And let's be clear, things like the early childhood education isn't going to affect the rich because their kids will be in the best pre-K, preschool, early education programs on the planet. This is about keeping people who can't afford to do it from doing it so that the rich, can stay rich and the poor stay poor. Like, this is all interconnected, as we say every week.
And I won't go through too many. It's disturbing, right? Like, to address the causes of migration, to manage migration throughout North and Central America, to provide safe and orderly processing of asylum seekers. Well, I mean, we can get to that, but I'll say, if you want to read all the things that were repealed, it's quite disturbing. And then there's this, right? Trump orders federal agencies to recognize only two sexes that are not changeable. If you want to read one of the most disturbing executive orders, I would suggest this one.
I'm worried too about, I almost changed the gender. So I'm queer and genderqueer. I almost changed the gender marker on my passport a year ago to X because it was no gender marker, which is one that feels the most authentic to me, is to have no gender marker. You either had like F, M, or X as your only options, right? There were only 3 options. It's not like I had a whole host of other options. Almost changed it. I leave for Spain in less than a week. I don't know if my passport would have been valid because the only gender markers that will now be recognized on US passports as valid are an F or an M, and it has to match your sex assigned at birth. So even if you got your passport legally changed, so if I went and I got my passport legally changed to M and my driver's license said M, everything said M, my birth, like, I provide gender affirming care in Florida, right? In the Florida Panhandle, only to adults, nobody sue me, thanks DeSantis. So if that's the case, right? If I've changed my birth certificate, my driver's license, my passport, I've changed everything. My passport is now no longer valid because it has to match the sex assigned at birth. And I am so grateful I didn't change it. Thanks, ADHD, because there was paperwork and I'm like, that's an executive dysfunction nightmare. So I didn't do it because I procrastinate and sometimes it works out well for me. But if I did, would I be allowed to leave the country in a week? I don't know.
I mean, and I'll just say, you can read through this article, but I think some of the most disturbing, if you read this executive order, is that essentially, right, there, oh man, maybe I can find the name. If you want to screenshot this, if you want to read the executive order, this is the executive order defending women from gender ideology extremism and restoring biological truth to the federal government. Like, what Dani is saying is being gender queer, or like, especially non-binary. Essentially, non-binary people do not exist. Gender identity is essentially just a binary option now. It's you're male or female, or and if it reverts to your sex, like however you were born. So the most disturbing part of this to me, it's in this article. There's this amazing publication called The 19th, like for the 19th Amendment. And this article, I would screenshot it because it's a great one. On day one, Trump pits his administration against transgender people, and it talks about it. Oh wait, it says it down here. This is the most disturbing part to me. It's housing in federal prisons. Like, we are now talking about trans women having to be housed with men. And I've personally taken you through Journal of Medicine studies, right? We've went through the studies ourselves that say the real people are in danger is the trans community. That is who is in danger. They're disproportionately more likely to be attacked. They're disproportionately more likely to be attacked when they're not allowed to go into restrooms of their chosen gender identity, and disproportionately attacked in prisons, right? When they're not allowed to be in the prison population of their chosen gender identity.
And people are asking, I don't know the answer. People are like, what? There are multiple other countries that allow for an X gender marker. We were definitely not the only ones. Argentina allows for it. Canada allows for it. Malta allows for it. Mexico allows for it. Germany allows for it. I could go on and on and on. There are tons and tons of countries. Colombia, India, there are tons of countries that allow you a different gender marker. Will you be able to enter the US with a different gender marker? I don't know. This only, I would imagine so is my guess, because this only says that the US will, so it says the US only recognizes as valid a M or an M on a passport that matches your sex assigned at birth. They can't legislate what other countries do, right? But they can refuse to let you into the country if you have another gender marker. I haven't heard anything about them refusing to let people into the country if they have a different gender marker. That would also have to have some kind of policy or something in place. When you enter the country, you go through Border Patrol, you hand your passport to a Border Patrol agent, they ask you a couple questions, they let you through. And there would have to be some policy in place, right? They would have to be telling the Border Patrol agents, like, you can't let anyone else in. I haven't seen anything that says that. Would it surprise me? No, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, we're degrading international relations with every breath we take right now, y'all. Like, America is literally wheezing its last breath of life. I could watch Mandy do makeup all day, I'm just saying. So I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what the story is here, right? In terms of, you can deny someone entry at the border for any reason, truthfully. Like, they can deny you entry for, it's not a right to enter another country, right? It's a privilege. So I could go to Spain next week and they could just be like, we don't really think you're here for what you say you're here for. We're not going to let you in, right? Like, they don't have to let me in. They have no reason not to, but if you have an X on your passport, maybe.
I can't. Sorry, I just had
I
to
don't
use
know.
the
I'm going to
restroom.
Germany in March, and I don't know if I'm coming home.
I keep saying that about Spain, because once
Hoping
you're
they'll
in
let me
Spain,
stay. Like,
once you're in Spain, you can get, and just so everyone knows, I will put this one out there. I took the hit for all of us. I had a meeting with an immigration attorney last week. Getting into any UK country is not going to be an option in terms of like asylum seeking, right? So, having worked a lot and contracted a lot with the government, it was very nerve-wracking for me that, like, there could be some retaliation, right, of the research groups and things like that I'm on. Trump promising retaliation against anybody that worked for, in, or with the Biden administration. And so I was like, if this all falls apart, like, can people from the US seek political asylum in the UK, which would be like Scotland, England, Wales, right? And the immigration attorney was like, unfortunately, we tend to have the same problem that the US does, where we just don't let people in for asylum. Like, we have people literally drowning on boats in the ocean. And the UK is like, sorry about that luck over there, but we're not going to take you. So getting into the UK is only going to essentially be open if you have a job offer in the UK, or you find someone willing to marry you. But in that case, right, the UK is just not an option. Spain has a digital nomad visa. So I have joked constantly. I'm like, look, when I go to Spain, you can apply for the digital nomad visa from within Spain. Most of my clinic and stuff happens online. Maybe I won't come back.
I wonder if that would apply to content creators.
Well, also, I guess I said I would never get married. I'm reconsidering in this moment. I know Paul from the UK is looking into my asylum paperwork. Paul, I'm sorry, we might have to get married. Like, he's just a guy in my
lavender marriages, folks. Lavender marriages.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's the way to go, man.
Yeah. I want to say thank you, Suzanne, so much for the $10. She said, you both rock. I'm a fan. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Susan, it's nice to hear from you. For Felice, you're awesome, Susan. Thank you so much. Thank you for the people that subscribe to my Substack. Subscribe. It's A Girl Has No Name. I'm going to start writing like it's my diary, going through like, oh my God, I almost said.
I have a Substack and I've never utilized it. And all of a sudden I've started getting people like finding it on there. And so I should probably start using it, but can I just use it as like a digital diary?
That's what I think I'm good. Well, I mean, I used to be a writer. I love writing, so yeah. But I think that's how mine might. It's not going to be like weird confessions, but I think it might be similar. I just wanted to read this, right? Like Trump said during his inauguration speech in a list of priorities published, it was published to the official White House website on Monday. The president's wish to, quote, establish male and female as biological reality and protect women from radical gender ideology is given as an example of how Trump plans to bring back American values. Women are in danger from men. I just want to be very, I just don't know how else to say it. We are not in danger from trans women in bathrooms. Okay. And again, the most important thing that I always like to point out is whoever, if 6 koalas in a trench coat enter a bathroom and begin to harass you, that was always and has always been illegal. No one is allowed to harass anyone in a bathroom. I don't know how else to tell you, but again, yes, every time if you don't know who's snoring, you have not been on this live that long.
Sorry.
Yes, welcome to
the giant dog, the dog from the Sandlot Danielle owns.
Here, we'll all do. Can I flip? Am I allowed to flip my screen? Well, here's the giant. He's actually twitching right now. So he's 230 pounds and he is sleeping soundly.
We cannot see what we cannot see. You
gotta hit save or whatever.
There we go. There he is. Hi, Watson.
Oh, hi, baby.
He's snoring. Everyone can hear you. He's like, I don't care. He's 230 pounds. So
how long does he have to stay down there? Forever.
That's such a great movie.
I know, Wendy.
They're great dogs. But they sound like a grown man snoring, right? He's 230 pounds. He's as big as a grown man. So when he snores, it's just like everyone can hear it.
Your dog has sleep apnea. You need to get him some type of a mask.
Do they make a doggy?
Probably for
CPAP machine.
Probably.
Yeah, Americans
that will be covered by
for
insurance.
Sleep apnea masks, but don't worry. I'm sure more pets probably have them. Don't worry.
Well, I'm going to say that would probably be covered by some sort of insurance. Your reproductive health care, no, but your doggy CPAP machine will be fine.
And I just keep tapping the screen. We could and should be at 200K. Keep tapping the screen like your life depends upon it. Tapping is clapping. We appreciate it so much. And again, please gift our guests. I mean, co-hosts, not guests, but please let's gift them. It's amazing. We all get to hang out every Tuesday. I appreciate it. And again, Cash App and Venmo will probably be the best way to support us. And maybe my only way, if I guess TikTok is not put back in the App Store, then subscriptions will just fade away. So please do support us through Cash App and Venmo and gifts. I have tapped to carpal tunnel. I love it. Thank you. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I think my health, I'm having, Dani and I talk about it, the stress. I just wanted to, there was one more thing I wanted to reiterate on this. Yeah, but I mean, yes, the federal prison conditions, and we'll see. Inaccurate identity documents expose. This is what I wanted to say. This is what is written in Project 2025. One of the things Trump was saying in his inauguration speech, and I still haven't watched the whole thing. I will, but I've seen a lot of clips at this point, is like, we're moving towards, a society, a colorblind society with 2 genders, right? And there's nothing more dangerous for minority groups than rhetoric like that. It's the essential erasure, right? Like, I just want to explain to you guys, if you don't understand how this will affect us and how terrifying that is. It is the erasure of minority groups. It's the erasure of Black people. It's the erasure of Hispanic people. It's all of those check boxes that define who we are, allow us to gather data, right? And what we call impact studies. So let's say, how do we know, like, brown and Black people are disproportionately affected by voter ID laws, right? It's because of data we can gather by the data sets produced by those checked boxes. So if you take away the checked boxes, We can no longer pull those data sets. We can no longer say, hey, this law is disproportionately affecting Black people. It's disenfranchising brown people. We won't know that stuff anymore. And this is what the goal of Project 2025 was, is to make us indistinguishable.
Everything that he's done, like so much that he's done has been clearly straight from the Project 2025 playbook as well. So I just can't, it's unfathomable to me how people are so willfully ignorant on this, right? We were saying like, oh, Project 2025. And they're like, Trump doesn't have any idea what that is. He's got no idea what that is, right? Despite the fact that the people that made it up were close to him. Puzzle piece time.
Got it.
And
isn't
so
there language I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mandy.
No, isn't there language in the trans one? I don't have normally I usually have my laptop here and I don't. There's language in the trans executive order too, like that references from conception.
Yeah,
I've seen that reported on already.
There's only two genders, male or female. And when we speak about gender or we refer to anyone like using government documents, it reverts back to sex, which is determined
right, but I think they
on your
say
birth
specifically
certificate.
Male from conception, female from conception, male, which first of all is scientifically, which is scientifically wrong, if I understand like how that works. Mm-hmm. But it's in there, and I bring that up because this links to AB laws, because it gets you back to the language of fetal personhood. They're going to continue to work that language in to anything they can, because to work in from conception allows for the conversation and the legalization of fetal personhood. I don't have it in front of me. Jessica Valenti actually reported on it this morning. So that's where I am getting this. So I trust the source. I just haven't seen it myself. I haven't pulled it up myself.
It does.
I went into like media blackout yesterday. I was until like yesterday afternoon. Like I wasn't doing it.
Same here. This is all Project 2020. These are all the executive orders that were listed. This is all listed in Project 2025. How they plan to do this, the flood of executive orders on day one. Yeah, it is. This is Heritage Foundation language.
And to the point that Mandy was making, like the idea that this comes from conception is ridiculous, right? Like you have the other sex chromosome at fertilization because the sperm is carrying it, right? The egg so XX tends to produce female, XY male, and then there are other distributions of sex chromosome in there, right? We have intersex people, so those are not the only two options, but in the majority, let's just keep it super simple. The egg has an X chromosome that comes from the one parent, right? XX chromosome, they get an X chromosome. The sperm carries either an X or a Y chromosome. And then at fertilization, that sex chromosome exists, right? But it's not expressed and the fetus isn't anything until around like 6 to 7 weeks gestation. That's why men have nipples, y'all. Men have nipples because in the very beginning of development, you're developing as a female fetus because you have the X chromosome. So the idea that like from conception, first of all, conception is a religious word. Anytime you hear someone say womb or conception, they're using moral religious overlay language. It's a uterus and fertilization. Those are the actual scientific words that we use, right? You don't have that second sex chromosome fully introduced and begin developing as a specific sex, right? Whether that be XY, XX, or some other variation in between until later on. So this idea that this happens at conception, again, evidence-based. We're a country completely moving away from science and evidence-based because that has no reality in science. Just like the idea, all scientists agree life begins at conception. Anybody that makes a blanket statement like that about science doesn't know science because all scientists have never agreed on anything ever. Like we can't even agree on what color dinosaurs were and who had feathers and who didn't. And you think that all scientists agree on stuff? Come on.
And Candace, do you think this is asking if she thinks this will affect women who need hormones during menopause? Absolutely.
It's hard for women to get hormones.
As I sit here with my estrogen cream and my progesterone pills and my everything else, like, absolutely. And that's hard. Dani will probably speak to this far better than me and far more educated than me. But from my understanding as just a layman, just a regulated person, this is why trans rights and AB rights and women's rights are inexplicably linked. You cannot separate them. They come for hormone replacement. They come for that sort of hormone treatment. Once you've opened that door and once you've made that illegal, it is only the next logical step to go for hormonal birth control. And then it is only the next logical step to go for hormone replacement therapy. Like, it is all of it is just the next step. What will be their next step? And the only thing that changes is their rationale, and that doesn't really even change much. But it just they will come up with different reasons to do the same thing to all of those things. So yeah, absolutely.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, if you're a man and you're like, hey, I'm not feeling as manly as I did last week. They're like, here's some testosterone for you. You need gender affirming care? Sure. Oh, you don't feel quite like as manly as you did last week? Let's get you some gender affirming care immediately. Meanwhile, children who are attempting, who are like, what, 1, 2 transgenders. I mean, the attempts on people's lives who don't have access, the children who don't have access to gender affirming care, right, is extremely high. We have people in real danger, but men are just like, oh, I don't feel so manly. Women, right? I mean, I think it's harder, especially as a younger woman, to get access to hormones or to be treated seriously because they believe, right, like it could mess up your fertility. And our only value in society is as incubators.
Well, and like Danielle said, I think last week, like, it's also like, especially like menopause and perimenopause, super under researched because we're women. Why would they care? But also, like, I've spoken about this. I went through an online organization for women, Joy, Joi, and Joy Blokes, I think is the name of the organization. They're incredible working with me. I work with a nurse practitioner and a doctor regularly. But like just yesterday, I was reminded, hey, we're going to take another $600 from you for your hormone replacement medication every 3 months. I can afford that right now. I don't know if I'll be able to continue to afford that long term. I'm doing it right now because I can, and with hopes that I will find a way to finance it. But because my insurance only covers certain things, because there's just lack of, it was easier for me to go that route. And so I have a follow-up with my doctor in February to talk about all these things, to see what we can resubmit to the insurance and see what we can get maybe covered so that I'm not having to pay so much. But again, with all of the legislation we're seeing, it's only a matter of time before they say, oh, your insurance doesn't have to pay for that.
Exactly.
They don't have to pay for any of that. We aren't going to cover that.
Because even Blue Cross website goes down. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. I was just last thought. Blue Cross Blue Shield update, the one that we have, the plan that I am on, updated this year. And now I'm having to fight to get any of my prescription medication covered. Like, things I've been on for years are now a whole new negotiation. And it's like, what the like, just allow me. I pay thousands of dollars a year to have this insurance, like over 10,000, like thousands and thousands a year, because it's a family plan, to be on this insurance. And you don't want to fill my medication that I know doesn't cost that much. You're just, choosing not to cover it because you don't have to. Like, it's exhausting, and I'm privileged, and I'm in a position to where I can afford it, and so I don't make content about it because I can afford to deal with it, even if I don't want to, and it affects me, but not in the same way that it's affecting somebody's life or death situation to get their medication, where they're choosing not to eat so they can afford it, or they're choosing not to pay their rent so they can afford it. I know that I'm privileged enough to afford mine, but these are the things we're going to see get worse under this administration.
And I'm already starting to see, like, one of the big things that I'm a big proponent of. And again, of course, you have to talk to your doctor. You have to have your own specific circumstances evaluated, right? But one of the best things that we're seeing for perimenopause right now is testosterone. Adding testosterone to estrogen treatment. And there are so many doctors that won't do it. First of all, there is this old, again, it's not evidence-based. This is old information. If you have a doctor tell you this is old information. There's this old idea that you can't prescribe, if someone's in perimenopause or menopause, you can't prescribe testosterone to someone that is still menstruating. That is not true. That is based on old data. What we do know for a fact is that testosterone helps with mood, helps with anxiety symptoms, helps with mood swing symptoms associated with perimenopause. But guess what else it helps with? The number one thing it helps with is mood, right? Brain fog and mood. Increasing your mood, decreasing irritability, decreasing that up and down that can come with menopause. And one of the best things that it helps with, low libido. Who are these men? We're literally doling out Viagra like it's a Pez dispenser here, folks. We're giving men, all men have to do is come into the doctor's office and be like, this one time last week, I couldn't get a hard on. Therefore, I have erectile dysfunction. No, you don't. That's not erectile dysfunction, right? Your body is not a perfect machine. It is not going to work 100% of the time, all the time when you want it to. That's not erectile dysfunction. But regardless of that, we have men showing up, getting freaking Viagra like it's a Pez dispenser. Who the fuck are they having sex with? Because it isn't these women that are in perimenopause that have low libido, that are having wetness issues. I'm trying to think of how I can say this, right? Lubrication issues and stuff like that, right? These women have a low libido. They're having vaginal and vulvar atrophy. They're having more dryness, which makes it more painful. Moist. Thank you. The moistness is reduced, right? We know that testosterone helps with this. We know that. So we're just giving men Viagra like crazy and then expecting women to just lie there and have sub-satisfactory painful sex. So it is definitely going to affect this.
Dani?
For sure.
Probably really, this might be a little niche, but I know that perimenopause makes my ADHD worse. I also know that ADHD can make intimacy complicated because you need more of that novelty. You need, like, your brain just has a tendency to not engage in the same way with ADHD, and like it can make that, and then you also blame yourself, which I only learned about recently is a very common thing for women with ADHD to like
Mandy's
have like
a
clock
no,
thing.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said
No, where it's a clock thing. Where if you're not intimate enough, you start getting mad at yourself, like that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing because society tells you you're supposed to be this super intimate, like wanting somebody all the time. But I'm just saying with ADHD, if the boredom's legit, it's real. You can't, that's not you just being bored with your partner. It's just ADHD a lot of times coupled with perimenopause. Like I thought I was broken. I still think like I need to investigate testosterone being added to my routine because for me, it's like, I'm like, and also the world is stupid and men suck. So there's a lot of reasons that I'm not into it right now. But
what do you mean?
I'm also not straight.
Do you know how few men interest me? And I'm not even talking about sexually. I'm talking about in everyday life.
Right.
Like women,
but I'm just curious. Can that is there?
Men don't provide mental stimulation. That's just personal. I mean, that's not true. I know some very smart men, but that's because those are the only ones I'll speak to, or not.
Right.
So.
But I mean, is it fair to say?
I'm agreeing with you with the ADHD
also
stuff. I get it. I'm with you on that. It's just.
Well, I've been doing like the deep dive, Felice, on like my ADHD because I like the brain fog. Like a lot of what Dani's saying today is having an aha moment with me. I will probably be sending that email to my nurse practitioner after this call, after this thing, so that I can be like, you told me if I wanted to try adding testosterone, I could. Can we move forward on that? Like, because the brain fog is legit. The moods are legit. The lack of libido is legit. All of those things are real. But then I also have ADHD, so I'm always playing the game of, is this my ADHD or is this my perimenopause? I was going to
say, how do you know if your brain fog is from ADHD?
I think it's both.
I think brain fog's good for me. I need to be 1 foot in reality and 1 foot out. That's what I'm realizing after yesterday. I might need the brain fog.
It's good for me until I have a deadline. It's good for me until I have to get something done, and either I wait and I procrastinate, it becomes that whole like flex of look what I did in the final hour, or it becomes this is 4 days late. I need to get this done like now. So yeah, I don't mind the brain fog sometimes, but
we definitely know for a fact that perimenopause and menopause can impact ADHD symptoms. All three of us have ADHD for anyone in the chat. So like, welcome if you're also neurodivergent. Hi, Watson. So, it can definitely impact like brain fog, reduced energy, like your executive dysfunction abilities. What's happening here is the decrease in estrogen has an impact on your dopamine, right? And dopamine is a main driver for people with ADHD. So your decrease in estrogen can impact your dopamine, which then impacts your ADHD symptoms. So there's two types of, like, we think about hyperactive, right? And inattentive symptoms. And both of those can be impacted. So like hyperactive symptoms, like fidgeting, talking, like not the impulsivity of like, I gotta say it, right? Like that can be a lot harder to control, the inability to sit still. And then also if you notice you're losing and misplacing things more, like you're setting something down, you're walking away and you'll be like, wait a second, I just had that. Where the hell is it, right? Those are your ADHD symptoms being made worse by perimenopause, right? Your inattentiveness, your brain fog is being impacted by that. So we see women that are much easier, just more easily distracted. They lose things more. If they have kids, they start beating themselves up because they're like, oh my gosh, I forgot about my kid's thing. And I don't forget this stuff. I can't believe I forgot my kid has this activity or something like that, right? And then they're like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like something's wrong. It's perimenopause. Right? It's the decrease in estrogen having an effect on your dopamine. Does testosterone work for that? We think that it might, right? It definitely helps with the brain fog, but this is going to come as absolutely no surprise to anybody. We don't have enough research on it. We need more research on it, and nobody will fund it at the moment.
Will you talk about really briefly, in that you always talk about how few studies on women's health are actually funded and how many on men's?
Yeah, so erectile dysfunction affects about 19 to 20% of men. We have 5 times more study on erectile dysfunction than we do on menstruation, PMS, or menopause. 5 times more.
How many women menstruate?
No,
How many women menstruate? Isn't it quite a few? I mean, I'm not an expert, but
almost 100%, right? Pretty close.
That,
and how many go into perimenopause or menopause? I feel like it's a lot.
Yeah, it's
right.
fine.
And we just don't have research on it. And why don't we have research on menopause?
Giving birth is a miracle of God. We don't need research on our bodies. It's fine. Just give it to God. The Lord will take care of it.
And going through the change, that inevitable change, just means you've expired as a woman. It's fine. Just get over it. Become a grandma. Go live in your house. Don't let anybody see you.
Give free childcare. No,
and free childcare.
Very clearly. Your job as a grandmother is free childcare. Get it right.
Because don't you know, as a 45-year-old woman, you should be telling your 18-year-old to make you a grandma? No. Yeah. No.
Joanna is about to be a grandma. She's like 37 or something. Like, sorry. Oh my God. I shouldn't have said, no.
I love my kids, but I don't want them to have little versions of themselves anytime soon.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, it's the point that's what JD Vance thinks grandmother's role in life is for, is childcare.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
JD Vance would want my boys impregnating women and my daughter being knocked out.
Oopsie, sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I don't know what I just said. Sorry, I don't know. I have no idea who that was or what just happened there. That was a technical difficulty. Yeah, can you imagine that? Like, stop complaining about the price of childcare, even though they just repealed what Joe Biden, the executive orders, that was doing something about preschool, which is a form of childcare, and childcare in the United States. Like, stop complaining. You all have a grandmother.
Congratulations, Mama Mary. I want to say something. If your kiddo has a kiddo and that's great. Like, I'm not against being a grandma. I'm just saying my kids are 18 and 21 and I'm not ready for that yet. Like, I want that
against
yet.
it. Of course not.
I certainly didn't mean that to be insulting to 45-year-old grandmas.
Let me clear what I'm saying. I'm saying, yeah, people are grandmas at a lot of different ages. And your only role when you are a grandmother is not childcare, right? Like, a lot of people who have children that are having a child are very young, and they're the primary breadwinner of the family. My point is, and then it also rolls into what Kamala, I mean, we could have had a real president who understood these things, right? Like the sandwich generation. Then we're looking at also elder care. The largest cross-section of our society is retiring. the boomer generation. And we have the sandwich generation, which are people who have children. They might even have a child having a child. And then they also are responsible for their parents' care as well. Like, this is the reality. These are economic issues, right? Giving birth is an economic issue in America. So no, like, we're not shitting on anyone in any circumstance. We're saying the conservatives do not care about us.
Yeah, I'm sitting right there. I have two teenagers, two 18-year-olds who still live at home. And then my mom is she's been in a nursing facility, but she's now she's independent enough to get sort of an assisted living apartment. But if I get one more text message from my mother every single day, I've been so sick, and yet I was still getting messages that would start with, hope you're feeling better now. Here's a list of 50 things I need. And I'm like, I can't right now, Mom. Or I don't know how I'm going to afford that, which is always code for, can you help me? And I love my mom. I do. But I'm also not made of money, but I'm also feel obligated to help however I can. So like, yeah, it's a lot. And while also worrying about how we're going to afford my daughter's college and my son's tech college and like, all of that stuff. So, yeah, it's a lot. And I certainly could not then also care for someone else's kid, like baby, like infant right now. Y'all would have me locked up.
We actually had a president that gave a damn about these issues. Like, yeah, I hadn't planned to be a grandma at 18, but a grandma at 37 with my 18-year-old daughter, I had to kind of check myself a little bit because I found myself fighting the urge to crush up a little bit of in her orange juice. And I'm like, no, you can't be for all women's rights and my body, my choice. And then say, yeah, this is your body, but it's my choice. So yeah, I'll be a grandma in March, getting more used to the idea. Thank you. But it's totally a thing. Grandmother in March at 37 and my mom is 65. So like, what the fuck, bro? A newborn and an 18-year-old who still wants to go to college, of course. And then a mom who's 65. I don't know where I'm going to get the money from. But, it's going to come from somewhere. Just kidding. I'm rich. All of us are rich. We don't need money. This is a gift. Don't even worry.
Obviously.
I
own makeup like I'm rich. Just to say. I buy makeup like I'm rich. Because I think makeup is the most fun escape ever. So...
Give me a makeup tutorial.
I might have to start on this app if they try to silence me in every other way. I'll just be like, let's find a way. It would be really fun, though, to do, like, makeup tutorials that are politically, like...
Well, yeah, like, know what you should also do? Have you seen the, like, get ready with me's I guess there are also tutorials where it's, like, girls who are doing their makeup, and while doing it, it's like they're reading a story that someone sent them. Sure. Sometimes it's about, like, people cheating or it's something crazy, and they're, like, telling a story while doing their makeup. But you should do that, but about, like, women who are facing horrific things.
Yeah, that could be a way. Like, any way that I can incorporate it into making sure the messaging is still getting out there, because that is going to be my constant for the next 4 years and beyond, is making sure that I find ways to always be getting that messaging out there.
I love that, like a story time and slay with me type of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, yeah.
For the record, I have no idea what I'm doing with makeup. I just play with it because I'm a theater kid who just likes playing with makeup. But
it's really pretty. For somebody who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, you look like you know what the fuck they're doing. The face is always...
I fake it well.
We always love it. All of y'all, the face is facing. But everybody, look what happens and look how good you look when you're not a racist bigot, right? So the skin stays skinning. The way that all of us women are going to expire, y'all ability to chat in this chat is going to expire if y'all don't get these taps up. I need y'all to tap the screen like you mean it. Tap the screen like you're enjoying being here. There's 250 of y'all. I know y'all are enjoying the information because I'm enjoying the information. I know we don't really like the person that's in charge right now. So take your rage out on the screen. Tap, tap, tap. You see the pay links at the bottom for Dr. Dani and the lovely Mandy. Shoot them a few coins. Felice's are at the top. Etta Girl has no name. I saw some people saying, hey, can I get a link to the Discord? That doesn't mean message us in here. We love you, but send a message to the Felice Navidad Live account. And then we'll get you one that way. A lot of you have your messages, private anyway. So even if I was going to send you a link, I can't. So make sure that you get a message sent. I'll get to them when I get here. You got to sign it though. Sorry, doing my black job up here. Everybody make sure that you're tapping the screen, sharing. Love y'all so much. Yeah, keep tapping or I'm going to turn the comments off.
Thanks, Joanna. Oh, I wanted to say, can I just show you guys this? The order calls, this is again the order against, or the order protecting women's biological freedom or whatever it says. It says the order also calls for transgender women to be housed with men in federal prisons and for an end to any gender affirming care being provided to trans people incarcerated in federal facilities. Dani, as a doctor, I was watching a documentary on this, it is a lie perpetuated by Trump's campaign that people are given surgeries in prison. You can't get a tooth removed in prison, if you didn't know that. But I do know, if you are, let's say, a trans woman or a trans man and you're on hormones, you can't be removed from those suddenly, can you?
I mean, you can do anything, right? Just when people were talking about drinking bleach during COVID, they're like, well, can you? And I'm like, well, you can drink anything one time, right? I'm not telling you what's going to happen. You might not be able to drink it the second time. So you can, but you're going to throw someone into, there are so many issues, an endocrine disruption. There's so many things that can go wrong with this. Right? So think of, this is a really good example, actually. So if anyone's on hormone replacement therapy for menopause or perimenopause, and tomorrow I took all of that away, I didn't taper you off of it, right? I didn't slowly bring you down. I just took it all away. You got none of it. You would be in hell for a couple weeks, right? You would suddenly just start sweating. You would get night sweats. You would feel some people feel like they're going crazy, right? They're like, my brain is racing. I can't hold on to a thought, or the brain fog is terrible or something, right? You can't just remove these medications, particularly. So what we want people to get to often when you start hormone therapy is we're getting you to a therapeutic dose and then you coast there. Right? You coast there at that therapeutic dose. It's just like if anyone's ever heard of antidepressants and they say, we tell you, you have to take them every single day. And if you miss a couple doses, the medication might not be as effective. It's because you're getting to a therapeutic dose. You coast at that level. And then if you miss a day, nothing's going to happen. But if you miss a couple days, you drop out of that therapeutic dosage range. And then we got to get you back up there. Right? So then you take your medication on time for a few days and then you can get back up there. The same thing's happening with hormone therapy. We get you to a therapeutic dose range that's giving you the outcomes that are good for you, a reduction in symptoms. For trans people, you're getting the secondary sex characteristics that you want, or you're getting the presentation that you want. We coast you at that therapeutic dosage level. Once you remove that, you're going to tank. Right? You tank back down and you're going to have a whole bunch of symptoms that come along with that. So the idea, like Felice said, that trans people are getting surgeries and stuff like that in prison. People have abscessed teeth that they can't get treated in prison. People have broken bones that they can't get treated in prison. People have pneumonia, cancer, stuff like that they can't get. So the idea that we're providing these surgeries, which are very, very high cost, and let me remind you, require a very niche specialty. Very niche specialty, right? There's plastic surgeons everywhere. There are not plastic surgeons everywhere providing gender affirming surgeries. These are very, very niche. Who's doing it? Show me the doctor. Give me the name of the doctor, right? Because there's only so many doctors that provide these gender affirming surgeries in the United States anyway. Anyone can do a mastectomy, right? Remove breast tissue. But when we're talking about down below surgery, I almost said the G word, and I'm like, I don't know if I can say that. When we're talking about surgery down below, we're talking about a reconstruction, right? Removing breast tissue, putting breast implants. Yeah, a lot of people can do that. But if we're talking about actual surgery to change the lower half, that's a very niche surgery. So give me the name of the doctor that's doing this in these prisons across America. The doctors that do it for people that aren't in prison have long wait lists and it's very expensive.
Could not agree more. That was exactly the point I was trying to make. Trump is also directing federal agencies to exclude transgender people when enforcing laws that protect against sex discrimination. Are we grasping what that means? Right? Like, such as Title IX, right? Like, he repealed all of Obama's Title IX language that protected people and the gender they identify with, essentially. Like, federal judges across the country, which I think this is important to note, have found in rulings, right, that discrimination against transgender people is a form of sex discrimination. And this is Trump's attempt to undo all of that. It's freaking terrifying. But yeah, and I just want to call out, because if you want to read more into this, what's happening to incarcerated folks in the transgender community who, when you are disproportionately more likely to be, I don't know, unhoused, exposed, prone to trauma, to addiction, you're also disproportionately, anyways, I don't want to get into it, but there was something called the Prison Elimination Act. Right? And this was passed in 2009 unanimously. And Trump's executive order, and when we talk about not housing transgender people within the prison population that they identify with, of the gender they identify with, like, this goes against the PREA. So
we call it PREA. The PREA Act is sometimes what it's called for short. And it was big surprise, y'all. We haven't eliminated what we were trying to eliminate in prison with it, but it does put in place like certain shocker. It does put in place certain standards, certain reporting, certain things about like housing people. And like, it requires that housing decisions need to be reassessed every 2 years. Trans and intersex people can't be housed in separate facilities or units based solely on their gender identity, right? Like, you have to take the totality of the person into consideration. The housing decisions are supposed to be made on a case by case basis, right? And so one of the things that was happening is that trans or intersex people were just kind of given this blanket rule about where to house them or how to house them. Some prisons were doing it like they had to go into special population and they couldn't be housed with the other population. Some prisons put them in solitary confinement, right? So what PREA did a lot of things. Let me be clear. PREA did a whole lot of different things, right? But as it relates to trans and intersex people, it made rules about screening them, housing them, searches on them, showering for them, right? So PREA is a big act that did a whole bunch of things, but specifically as it applies to LGBTQ people and trans and intersex people, those are the things that are mainly affected that come up off the top of my head. I'm not saying that a PREA expert isn't going to know a lot more, but like searches, housing, showering, screening, all of these things come into play when we're talking about PREA.
Absolutely. And like you said, most importantly, according to PREA, if your safety is threatened, you, in theory, I want to stress that. I don't believe this is always happening, but in theory, you should have a say in where you are housed, what population, and as it applies to the transgender community. I mean,
and you're supposed to, under PREA, prison officials, when considering housing decisions, are supposed to consider them based on the individual's views of their own personal safety, right? And that's a good thing. That's like me as a clinician looping somebody into their care, right? Like, I'm going to consider what you want and your own goals and your own personal safety, right? And I get it. This is prison, but it's saying you can't just make assumptions. You can't just look at a queer person, whether they're trans or intersex or bisexual or gay, right? You can't just look at them and make assumptions of how they're supposed to be housed, where they should go, what they would want for their own personal safety. You're supposed to take their considerations of their own personal safety into consideration. And it even includes things like, staff members of the opposite sex are supposed to announce themselves. So if you're a male staff member and you're entering a female housing facility, you have to announce yourself. Male staff member coming on floor. that allows people to cover up, that allows people to know that a male is coming into their area, right? It's simple things like that we think are just common courtesy. That stuff wasn't being done before, and now it has to be done via PREA. And that's how trans people and intersex people can really be harmed by this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And this talks about the gender marker on your passport you were talking about. I thought it was interesting. Like the first US passport, the reason there's an X gender marker, it was issued as the culmination of a 6-year legal battle, right? Between an intersex and non-binary Navy veteran and the U.S. State Department. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit ordered the agency to reconsider its prior refusals to issue veteran Dana. I don't understand how to say their last name, so I'm not going to attempt it. An accurate passport, noting that forcing intersex people to pick a male or female gender marker creates inaccurate data.
We want accurate data. We want accurate data as people that
do.
Right. They don't want accurate data, right? They don't care. And this is another big part. Like the three of us have talked about this before. I don't know how much we've touched on it on the show, but this is also a big move of the right's anti-intellectualism, right? This big push of like, you can't trust science. You can't trust studies. Of course, all the manosphere bros that talk about studies, you can trust all those studies. Those studies are golden, right? But there's this big movement from Republicans about like, well, you can't trust the education system. You can't trust science. And this is just more a part of that. Like, we don't need to collect accurate data. Who cares about accurate data?
Exactly. Precisely. That is the goal, right? You know that data is not going to be coming out in your favor around maternal mortality, or it's the way, like Trump said in his inauguration, we want a colorblind society, and he wants 2 genders. That's the erasure of many groups of people, being unable to collect accurate data on many groups of people to prove they are in fact being disproportionately discriminated against. It's pretty smart. It's
definitely
Project 2025 101. No, that's it. I just want to say it was written in Project 2025.
And I'm going to be very careful. Let's all remember who somewhere around like the 1940s did the same thing, right? Like this big movement of like, you can't trust science. We don't want to, if we collect the data and the data doesn't give us the outcome that we want, like maternal mortality, or like saying that providing gender affirming care actually keeps trans people alive, right? We're just not going to look at the data. We're not going to collect it. If we think that the data that we collect is going to give us an outcome that we don't want, we're just not going to collect it. Like, this is not something that we haven't seen before, right? Anti-intellectualism and the fact that you can't trust science is a move that is used by the big F people, right? Like, I'm not willing to say it because I think TikTok is but there's democracy. And then there's what happened in Germany in the 1940s. And that started with an F. And that's what we're looking at.
I don't know if you saw this in the online. I just want to say, so last week, I thought it was cool. The New Jersey governor announced that they're going to stockpile AB pills and this was before, it looks like, I guess, Project 2025 is their little blueprint for sure. But Governor Phil Murphy announced that they were going to stockpile AB pills. What is the other thing? Oh, yeah, I remember. I thought this was really interesting. This article. There has been a huge surge in Americans getting sterilizations given states' abortion laws. And not just like tubal ligations and vasectomies. So I actually have 2 friends I know have gotten vasectomies since 2022, personally.
And something that I think is really interesting. So we have all of this. We have a lot of people getting vasectomies. We have a lot of people getting IUDs. I highly recommend getting an IUD.
They can last that in here as well. Yes.
They can last for a very long time. Depending on your IUD, they can last for like up to 8 years, right? Remember, pro-women's health centers will be the only women's health centers allowed. The only sterilization procedures they will allow to give is a reversal of sterilization. You will not be able to get sterilized. You will not be able to get contraceptives. You will not be able to get sterilized. On this same thing, and something I haven't heard anybody really talk about that I think is really important, starting on, I think it was Sunday, ads started to go out across X and Facebook. And these ads are from anti-abortion activists, anti-choice activists, and they very specifically target men. They're targeting men. These ads on Facebook and X are targeting men to report their partners for having an AB. They are specifically asking men to come forward, like we've seen in Texas. We saw that man come forward in Texas, and Silva was his last name. You can Google it. He tried to sue his ex-partner. He tried to sue 3 women, friends of his ex-partner, who helped her obtain an AB. It didn't end up going anywhere. The suit got completely dropped. Why? And by the way, it's one attorney doing most of these. Mitchell, I think, is his last name. And they dropped it. Why? Well, because it was found out that Silva was an abusive person. He had used power and control and abuse tactics against his partner for a long time, and now he was using the court system to try to do the same thing. And we still have another case in Texas coming forward where a woman took AB pills at home, did not tell her male partner about it. She started bleeding really heavily. She did not have a complication, but you do cramp a lot and you do bleed quite a lot when you take that medication. And so that causes a lot of people to go to the ER. People go to the ER saying, is this normal? Is this okay? And we say, yeah, this is normal. This is okay, but I'm glad you came to get checked out if you were worried about it, right? That's what she did. She told her partner, can you take me to the ER? I'm bleeding really heavily. I'm having cramping. He did not know she did this. He took her to the ER. The nurse came out and told him what was going on. This is a blatant HIPAA violation. The nurse came out and said, she's having a miscarriage. She was 9 weeks pregnant. He then used that information, went back to her house, searched her house, and found the package for the AB pills. He is now suing because she was able to obtain AB pills. The doctor that's being sued is in New York, right? Clear HIPAA violation. It doesn't matter. This is what the ads are targeting. They're targeting anti-choice men saying, if you know your partner if you know or suspect your partner had an AB, contact us. We're going to sue. So, and if you want to look it up, let me see if I can find.
Just gonna say, I'm looking for it. Was that a
I want to see one of these ads.
We talked about this. Remember,
Washington Post.
Yeah.
Anti-abortion advocates look for men to report their partners. I'll send this to you right now, Felice.
Yeah, thank you. And then but I was talking about the case you were just talking about. We were talking about it a few weeks ago. Like the case, was it a Washington Post article, like about the person who, whose boyfriend searched their house? That's what I was wondering. I was wondering what that article was called, or if you could send that one to me so I could put it up. Because that's a really good one. We talked about this, I think 3, maybe 4. It might have been right before the Christmas break. It might have been. I'm trying to remember, or was it right after? It was one of those. But yeah, this is a case we reported on. It was like a woman in Texas, exactly as Dani explained, that was hemorrhaging blood, went to the hospital. They told her this was not her part. This was not a marriage. They were not married. It was her boyfriend. And
even if it was, can't tell your husband anything. I can't tell your husband anything.
Exactly. And so violated HIPAA laws, called someone's boyfriend and was like, hey, we suspect her of this. They did not live together. Searched his girlfriend's place and said, found these empty boxes.
Yep.
So this is an article from the Texas Tribune. In this case, Paxton accuses Dr. Margaret Carpenter of mailing pills from New York to a 20-year-old woman in Collin County in Texas. The woman allegedly took the medication when she was 9 weeks pregnant. She began experiencing severe bleeding. She asked the man who impregnated her to take her to the hospital. He had not been aware she was pregnant or seeking an AB. So at that point, he takes her to the hospital. The nurse comes out and tells him she was 9 weeks pregnant and she's having a miscarriage. He suspected that it was not a miscarriage. He suspected that she had done something to cause it, went back to her place. They did not live together, went back to her place, searched her house, and found the package for the pills. And that's how we got this. I'll send this to you right now, Felice.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I knew. We went over this. Yeah, it's quite disturbing. Yeah. This is TikTok be glitchy. Amen. It will be. And I just wanted to say this. So this, and you can look up this study. This is a Washington Post article. It's in today's outline in the Discord, in the broadcast live sources section. And it's a study in the journal Health Affairs this month found that from May to August 2022, vasectomy surged by 95% and tubal sterilizations by 70% among adults 19 to 26. So young people. Researchers used medical records to analyze procedure codes and found that states likely to ban ABs after DOPs experience a greater increase in permanent contraception procedures. Smart.
Yeah, they're going to have to continue to get smart with their research because these things won't be reported on.
Yeah, for sure.
And I talked about this briefly. I just have to say it again because I'm so they make this sound like some sort of miracle, right? But this is a bill that allows any man in this country, or any person, I should say, to basically assault an undocumented immigrant. Let's just call particularly a woman, and and then it has a chilling effect on their reporting ability. If you are an undocumented immigrant, and particularly women, right? You do not have a loophole in this bill. If you fight back during an assault and you scratch someone, you too can be deported. So I want to just play this clip really quick. I love Pramila Jayapal. She's absolutely amazing. Pramila, sorry.
Love her.
Me too. And I think she describes what I'm, due to brain fog, having a problem describing.
I want to talk through an example. The police show up to a domestic violence call. The victim was attacked by her abuser, and she fought back in self-defense. Maybe the abuser has some scratches on his face. It is common practice for the police to arrest both parties in that situation when responding to a domestic violence incident. The police write a report describing how the victim hit her abuser in self-defense. Under this bill, that is an admission constituting the elements of domestic violence, and this woman is now inadmissible and subject to deportation. Even if she is never charged, even if a judge later rules that she did not commit any crime, that so-called admission in the police report that she responded in self-defense to hit her abuser, that is enough to make her inadmissible under this bill. And that is, again, why more than 200 advocacy organizations for domestic violence survivors, deeply ensconced in the material of what happens every day across the country, far too often, those groups are all deeply opposed to this legislation. They know that this expansive bill that eliminates the existing safeguards for domestic violence survivors will harm those exact survivors and create a chilling effect for reporting future crimes, empowering abusers to go after immigrant women.
We knew Trump had a thing for immigrant women. So, I mean, in my opinion, that's pretty much who he's married almost exclusively. So I'm just saying, imagine this scenario. Any immigrant woman, undocumented woman who is assaulted, there's no reporting mechanism. I'd be scared to even call for medical help at this point in certain states.
Yeah.
And this is, I love this stuff from, the ACLU has a lot of stuff on this and love it. Violence perpetrated against women and girls can put them at risk for incarceration because their survival strategies are routinely criminalized. From being coerced into criminal activities by their abusers to fighting back to defend their lives or their children's lives, survivors of domestic violence can find themselves trapped between the danger of sometimes life-threatening violence and the risk of spending the rest of their lives in prison. Nearly 60% of people in women's prisons nationwide and 94% of some women's prisons populations have a history of physical or sexual abuse before being incarcerated. For women in Rikers, a study found that most of the domestic violence survivors interviewed reported engaging in illegal activity in response to experiences of abuse, the threat of violence, or coercion by their male partner.
I muted myself.
And guess what? Guess who's most likely to be criminalized? Guess who it is? Because it's not the cute little white Christian woman, y'all, that's sitting at home with her blonde hair and blue eyes. Like, it's women of color. Women of color are more likely to be deemed as aggressors. Women of color are more likely to be seen as aggressive by the police who actually show up to the scene. And as someone that is a specialist in trauma and treats trauma, one of the things that I see all the time from police officers, well, I got there and he was super calm. And she was freaking out. She was like yelling and she was like, and this and he and blah, 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 blah. That's trauma. This woman was just assaulted. Of course he's calm, cool, and collected. He was in control the entire time. So then when you show up, he needs to get you to join him. So he's going to get really calm and he's going to seem like the voice of reason. And he's going to say, she's crazy. Look at her. She just started, and look at this scratch on my face. Women's injuries are most likely to show up 24 hours after abuse because bruises don't show up for a while. Black eyes don't show up for a while. Unless this man used like a weapon on you, right? You're not going to have bruises until you're sitting in a jail cell for scratching him on the face.
Sorry, I always use this. It's called thefriendshipcenter.org. It's a great resource for AV and other things of this nature, but it specifically talks about, I need to find the section. It talks about this, but it has a section where I'm trying to figure out, it's a post by someone, the myth of mutual DV, right? And this is a great DV resource, but the point is, let me read some of these. The term mutual abuse is sometimes used when both people appear to simultaneously be abusers and victims. In truth, domestic DV is never present between equals because it stems from one partner's need to own and control the other by any means necessary. There is no, in the first place, hey, it was going both ways, right? And I think, sadly, mutual abuse is sometimes depicted as reality in the media and within the court system, causing more fallout and confusion for victims. Yeah, sorry. Co-abuse. I love those words.
Yeah.
We have a study, because I was like, I know that there's a study about this. So there's a study that came out of New York City, and it showed that women of color and low-income women were disproportionately affected by mandatory arrest policies for domestic violence. So these are what we call mandatory arrest policies. It's something that's been studied pretty well. Mandatory arrest policies say that if you show up to a domestic violence incident and it's not blatantly clear that somebody was the aggressor, then you are required to arrest both parties. Those are mandatory arrest policies. We find that they cause and perpetuate harm and they're not evidence-based. So a lot of places have undone these mandatory arrest policies, not enough of them, but in places that have them, women of color and low-income women are disproportionately affected. Of survivors that took part in this study that happened in New York City, those who had been arrested along with their abusers, known as dual arrest cases, or arrested as a result of a complaint lodged by their abuser called retaliatory arrest cases, 66% were Black or Latina, 43% were living below the poverty line, and 19% were receiving public assistance at the time of their arrest. 66% were Black or Latina.
Isn't that always the way? Why am I not shocked? And this is what you're talking about, reactive defense, right? Reactive defense, to defend yourself, to lash out, to be hysterical, right? In fight or flight. These are automated responses. You cannot control them. How you react in a crisis is not your choice, right? Unless, of course, you're the person in control of the scenario, then you would be the calm one who's able to communicate and has a story ready to go, right? I mean, this is like part of what I've worked on for so many years is to stop having reactionary. Like, I think it's because I've been through so many crisis situations. I'm like I get really active. Like, I'm not a freezer. I'm just like, I'm going to do whatever I can to make this better. But control over reality. I also love this one. Like, this is the reality. Advocates often speak with survivors who fear they are also abusive. Do you know that I had to go to therapy and say, literally, I remember day one being like, I think I'm a narcissist. They're like, why do you think that? I'm like, well, I just listed a bunch of reasons, and they're like, you're really close to it. Your mother's a narcissist. You know what I mean? Like, they had to explain that to me. Hey, narcissists don't come to therapy and cry hysterically and confess that they think they're a narcissist. And I was like, oh,
yeah, they come to therapy and say, everybody else is annoying. I hate everybody. Everybody's the problem. Can you help me deal with the fact that everybody's the problem? Right? Like, narcissists don't come in and say, I think I'm the problem.
And they were like, and I was like, well, they're like, why? Well, my number one reason was, well, they're like, that's what my mom said. They were like, oh, maybe I think it's your mom.
You know, that paper is more sophisticated.
Projection.
Like, I literally was like, confessed. I'm like, I'm here because I'm a narcissist. And they're like, no, you're not. Like, please stop. But
and
yeah.
I do find, because Felice, you had said, and this is something like people in the chat, chime off if this is you, but something that I definitely find being a trend in women, for a lot of women, when you were younger, it wasn't safe to speak out, right? It wasn't safe to defend yourself. Your fight response was deadened. And like Felice was saying, like, now, fuck that fawning stuff. Like, I'm going to come out activated. I'm going to come out ready, right? What we often find is that as women get older, right, they start to culminate, and particularly if they go to therapy, they start to culminate more safe spaces around them. They start to be really particular about the people that are around them, and they start to come out of this fawning response. This is also why men don't want to date women over the age of 25.
I'm an expert fawner, though. I just want to say, you're describing my progression in life. Like, fawning is the people who are the best fawners, and probably the people you call pick-me's, those are people fawning. That's what it is. It's like it's the later stages of fawning. But imagine, like, if you start an abuse cycle very young, like for me, it was from birth. So I can't run. I'm trapped, right? Like, my abusers are my parents. I can't run. And other familial power sources around me. There's no running. I can't fight these people. I'm 3. What am I going to do? If I'm the most adorable, if I show my dimples a lot, if I'm the smartest, if I'm the most resourceful, if I'm hyper vigilant, and any time someone's mood shifts, I make them smile, I entertain them, maybe I'll survive because I'll be abused the least. That's how you end up as a fawner. No one could do it better than me. And then I remember it was actually the TikTok algorithm that helped me recognize what was wrong with me, why I was doing that, why I felt this need. When I worked in advertising, people used to say, no one knows anything about Felice. All of these opinions I have, people know me for now, no one knew if I was a Republican, a Democrat. That was a survival mechanism. I was whoever the power structure around me needed me to be. I didn't have any opinions. I didn't.
And that's what, it's unsafe. Like, that's what we see for young women that like develop trauma early on and stuff like that. You learn that fighting back can make the harm worse, right? It can get me hurt worse. You can't flee if you try to flee. Like, we have a lot of juveniles that run away from home, and then we put them in juvenile detention and stuff like that, right? Like, as a clinician, I'm always like, but what are they running from and why, right? Like, there's a reason they're fleeing. So what's going on? But nobody asks that or anything. So then what we usually find is, as women start going to therapy or they become more educated, because we know that women are the most educated demographic now. So as women go to therapy, they become more educated. They come out of this this fawning response. And you usually see women like 24 to 27 is when this starts to kind of like come off. And then we see women like 27, 28 onward being like, fuck you, fuck this is my opinion. No, you're not going to treat me like that. You're an idiot. Absolutely not. And what's happening is sort of this taking back of, I couldn't do it then, but I can keep me safe now, and I'll be damned if I'm silent. So we see this progression. And remember, women are taught that fawning makes them a good woman. The self-silencing woman, the woman that keeps the peace, the woman that just says, yes, of course, sweet. I'm pliable, I'm flexible, I'm sweet, right? Like, we condition women into trauma responses. And then when they become educated or they get a community around them, then we start to see women offload this. So it's usually, that's why men don't want to date women over 25, number one. And number two, you're having that reactive response almost to the point of like, I'm not going to let someone take an inch because little you needed that and you couldn't give that to little you, but you can give that to you now.
Yeah. Well, and my abuse was more in the emotional. I was the daughter of two alcoholics. Like, I was spanked. I was belittled, especially when they were drinking. I was told, if you don't like it here, we'll drop you off at a halfway house. Like when I was, 12, I was threatened with just being abandoned. And so I learned really quick how to keep the peace, how to take blame for things that wasn't my fault, how to try to keep everybody, and how to read a fucking room as fast as I could. Because I knew if I came home and I had sober parents, things would probably be okay. If I came home and my parents had been drinking, things were not going to be okay. And so, like, it's even now, I still do a lot of the things. I catch myself. And I actually am grateful that I have the ability to read a room, but now I take it to the extreme of like assuming people think things that they don't, reading people's behaviors, thinking that, they're mad when they're not. But those are things that I work on, but fawning was always like, let's be as palatable as possible. Let's be, apologetic for everything so that, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry and again, this is just stuff women are conditioned to do anyway. But then when you add the fear, the actual fear of something bad going to happen, you don't have that safe ability to respond how you would want to otherwise. I never knew what it was to really speak up for myself, defend myself, tell people to fuck off. Like, because I wouldn't have been able to get away with any of that. Now I've raised children who do that. Some days I question that. But I'm glad they've had a safe home. They have a safe home where they can tell me things, even if it's hard, even if it's complicated. And they know I'm going to listen, and they know that they don't have to read the room. They can walk into a room and I can be in a terrible mood and they can have no idea until I admit to them, I'm sorry, I'm in a really shitty mood.
I'm like Jason Bourne. I know I'm like clocking every person within 100 yards. Like if I can be cornered, like every exit, like You're
just so aggressively aware of everything around you. And but I mean, to be on all the time like that is so exhausting. To always have to be on like that, to always have to be, it's like you're and I'm sure Dr. Dani can confirm this in a way that I will never understand, but it's like your neural system, like it's always at high alert. Even in safe environments, I will still be at a weird high alert. And it's like, when do I go to somebody's event and I can just relax and have fun? Because it's never happened. It's always this high alertness of like, do they like me? Are we getting along? Is that person dangerous to me? Is this a safe situation? Am I going to be made fun of? Am I going to be awkward? Like I cannot, there is never a point when I'm in any social situation where I'm not at like a 10. And
it's funny. Let me say something really honest, because I totally know what you're saying. And like, this is the example. When I used to have to be in social situations all the time, this is when I drank too much, because in order to turn off the hypervigilance, I had to self-medicate. You know what I mean? Like I had to. I could not be in a social situation with PTSD and all these things and not self-medicate in order to calm it down. And M in the comments said something, and they're like, oh, you just won't go out anymore. And I just want to say, and since I stopped drinking, I just don't go out anymore. But I do run like 10 miles a day, run/walk like 10 miles a day. And I remember literally yesterday while I was on a media blackout for my sanity because my PTSD and CPTSD is so activated right now. I'm like watching this guy, I usually don't make the same loops twice because in my mind, it's not safe. Like what I say of Jason Bourne, if you make one loop somewhere once as a woman running, you don't want people you don't want to make it twice. You don't want people to be expecting you to come back. So I rarely do it. And I started a second loop and in my head, I was like, this is stupid. And then this guy started cutting off my path to leave that neighborhood. And I this could have just been a normal man walking, but the way my mind works, it's not. And that is just an example of, that's reality. But then again, I also have been assaulted twice in the last year running. So, it's not completely coming from nowhere.
Well, and I mean...
yeah, other than running, I just don't leave my house.
And for me, as a social media person, because I work with these groups that, tomorrow I'm going to an event in Madison, Wisconsin, for the anniversary of Roe, right? And I'm going to be interviewing people. I am people think I'm so outgoing and so I am the most uncomfortable in these situations the stress sweat alone, right? I wear deodorant on every square inch of my body for these events because I'm going to sweat and then I'm perimenopausal. So it's going to smell weird. So I'm doing everything I can not to do that. That was meant to, for those who know, no, it smells weird. But, for me, those are so uncomfortable, but I keep making myself do them because I want to get comfortable doing that because I see a path for me with this where I can, interview people and talk to people and do more of that. But it is the most uncomfortable situation. And I have friends in my life who are like, how you doing? Because this stuff takes it out of you. When I go on those creator weekends, when I would go to those creator houses, I had friends who would text me how you doing? You doing because they know within about 24 hours my entire social battery is at zero, and yet I have to fake it for 2, 3, 4 days, and I just don't do it well. And I'm getting better, but I'm also a 45-year-old woman who doesn't really want to change a lot. So no, I'm just kidding. But those things make me so anxious. And a lot of it's because I can't control what's going to happen. I can't control who I'm going to be around. There's a lot of drinking. There's a lot of things that are happening where I'm sober and I'm seeing behaviors that make me uncomfortable, and it's not even necessarily directed at me. It's directed because let's be honest, some creators have some personality types that you're just not going to mesh well with, especially when they're drinking. And so I just keep trying, but I'm not sure it's ever going to feel comfortable. I really don't know if it'll ever feel comfortable, but that's me. If you see me in public, chances are I'm super, super anxious about it. And I have crippling self-doubt. So I'm questioning everything I say to you, and 2 weeks later, I'm still feel like an asshole because I said something dumb and that nobody else noticed. But to me, it was the dumbest thing I ever could have said. So
I always love when Mandy's at events because I find Mandy and I'm like, you're panicking too, right? We're both panicking. And Mandy's like, yeah, for sure. We're both panicking. So I'm great. Yeah. So
we're going to fix this. She would always find me in a chair or in a corner, just watching everybody else. Cause I was I don't feel the need to mingle. I'm not going to get up and start just being I know you, you're amazing. Listen, I'm not antisocial. I'm self-deprecating. I'm thinking I'm not good enough to be here. Maybe I seem like a bitch to people, but I'm no, I just don't think I belong here. So Hello, and I'm working on it.
I always picture males failing up whenever you have that feeling. And if I could give women any advice as I get older, and I started as a very smart person. And then once you develop hypervigilance, it's actually a life skill that makes you a genius. I would say to women who I think if hypervigilance is in a spectrum, and if you don't know what hypervigilance is, that's just when you've faced a lot of trauma situations where you're unsafe, all of your senses become enhanced. The way you analyze your own safety and things, you see the world different. It's how I started seeing the world in patterns. It was for my own safety. So the advice I would give to women, and the older I get, the more I've just leaned into it and realized God damn it, we're always right. Trust your instincts. Trust your instincts. Stop second guessing yourself. Whatever you believe, your first instinct, trust it.
Well, I always remind people.
I was so thankful to have you at the GNC. Like, I was so thankful to have you there, because like we immediately connected, but also like we were just we handled it very similarly. So like I was really thankful for that.
Super helpful. Before, I have a hard stop at 3, but something I wanted to, because we're all talking about this, and like I'd like to remind people that the skill of emotional attunement, that was your very first survival skill. So if you think about like old skills are the ones that are the most ingrained, right? Everybody in general has emotional attunement. So we've all heard this idea that like, if mom's stressed, baby will be stressed, right? Like if mom's stressed out and crying, baby's going to stress and start crying. That's emotional attunement. Think about what your survival skills as a tiny little infant is, right? You can't fight. You can't flee. You can't do anything. Your only survival skill is emotional attunement. You have that as an infant. You can emotionally attune to the adults and the room around you. Yeah, you even have it in utero, right? So that is your very first oldest survival skill. So if someone in the environment starts to like pop up and stress, baby starts crying, baby stressed, because baby goes, oh, the people around me are stressed. There must be a reason to stress. Or the people around me are calm. It must be okay to be calm. That's your first survival skill. Then the more you use a skill, the deeper ingrained and the better it's going to get, right? Well, who needs emotional attunement skills more than women? Because women have realized that like, oh, if my dad comes home and his tone of voice is different, that can be dangerous for everybody in the house. And mom teaches the kids that too, right? Mom teaches that dad's mood controls the whole house. So you learn to attune to dad's tone of voice, his mood. You can do it to mom too, right? I'm just using this as an example. Then you might end up in a relationship where your partner is that way, right? Women learn emotional attunement. You ever been at the coffee shop and then you hear the man start going off in the barista, I ordered this milk and you're like, and you're like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here, right? That man's not yelling at you. In that moment, he likely is not a direct danger to you, but your emotional attunement skills just popped the fuck off and told you to get out of here. You have really great emotional attunement skills because it's your oldest. And then women tend to get better at it over time because women use it to keep themselves safe. So nobody else in the room might have noticed that man's tone of voice just changed a little bit. Nobody else on the text string might have noticed that tone, the tone of this text string just changed very subtly, but you picked up on it. PTSD, CPTSD, people with intense anxiety, people who grew up with parents as alcoholics, parents who were abusive, they're very good at emotional attunement because they used it for survival. So you're going to pick up on all these tiny little nuances. You're going to pick up on the fact that somebody used this word instead of this word when they usually use this word, or their voice went up a little bit here when it usually goes down, right? You're going to be really good at that because you use that to survive for a long time.
And it's really hard when you're dealing with somebody who has
Don't tell people my secrets.
I was like the whole like using different language and texting, like that is it can be so deadly to relationships because I will see a shift in that shit and immediately I'm like, oh, this person's moved on. This person's not into me. And it's like that person's just completely unaware that they've even done it. But for me, it means something. Like it's always going to mean something. And I've had to be really good about communicating that with people in my life, because otherwise I immediately will spin out and I'll be like, we need to have a conversation about this.
What's
this changed.
Wrong? And they're like,
does it mean something? Does it not mean something? Let's have the conversation, because if you don't have the conversation, the story that I will have crafted in my brain will be worthy of a fucking Emmy. It will be it should be on TV. You know, oh yeah, emojis too. Emojis are, don't give me a thumbs up emoji. I will assume you hate me. It's fine.
An adoptee just said that this resonates with them. Yeah, Valerie, absolutely. Adoptees, your ability to remain in that family is if they love you or not. Oh yeah, the hypervigilance. I can't imagine. I was not adopted, but as someone who was in a hyper terrifying scenario in childhood, I can imagine it's got to be so similar. Like you're on 24 hours a day. It's a performance. These people must love me or they're not going to keep me. That's a 24-hour a day job. You must have an amazing superpower called hypervigilance now. That is also slowly unaliving you.
As we all go through all of this, I would really encourage people to look up, like if anyone's ever heard of Emily Nagoski, who wrote an amazing book that exists on my shelf. Here it is. I'm like, it's somewhere. She wrote this amazing book. If no one's ever read it, it's called Come As You Are. It's on AFAB sexuality. And it talks a lot about, like, it undoes a lot of the terrible sex ed that we got in school, right? But she and her sister, Amelia Nagoski, did a lot of research on stress response cycles. And particularly women are not great at completing their stress response cycles because stuff just keeps popping up. Right? Now, this isn't going to be like a complete solver or anything like that. Like, therapy is still great. Working through PTSD and triggers and DBT skills and all of that are still really great. But completing stress response cycles, it's the idea that like your cortisol goes up, your body has a stress response cycle, and it needs to complete that cycle. So if anyone has ever cried, like if you've ever had these long, deep, heaving cries, right? And then towards the end of it, you go, that's a stress response cycle completing. Crying does complete a stress response cycle if you can let yourself feel it and go into it. So that's the author. That's an amazing book. So they did write a book on this. They wrote a book on completing the stress response cycles. It's by Emily and her sister Amelia. If you go down in Amazon, I bet it's like linked to it because it's like, she also wrote these books. But they talk a lot about that. So your stress goes up. And then if you don't do anything to complete the cycle, then you're staying in this high stress level. We see it in nature documentaries all the time, right? So a gazelle is being chased by a cheetah or a lion or something like that. And if they don't get the prey, you'll often see this footage where the animal's like shaking off, right? Like they shake their tail and their whole body goes, "Hoo." That's a stress response cycle completing. That's their body completing the stress response cycle. You're doing the same thing when you take that deep heaving sigh at the end of a big cry session, right? So we can physiologically see it happen, but if you just keep going up in stress response and your body never gets to complete the cycle, all of that cortisol, all of that adrenaline, that stuff gets to free float. There you go, burnout. There you go. That's what it's called. So that's a really great book. They also have YouTube videos where they talk about it. If anyone's like, I just need the quick and dirty, right? But this is also on Audible. So it's really good research about completing those stress response cycles. Again, it's not going to solve everything, but it does help. And it helps for people that are up in that like hypervigilance stage.
I remember, I want to say, like, I had the most recent experience I could say I had with that, because it just stands out in my brain, was right after the election. I kept trying to be okay. I kept trying to be okay. I kept trying to act okay. I kept trying to say the right things. I kept trying to be positive and be like, we're still in this fight. We're still in this fight. And then like 3-4 days later, I got into an argument, and it was with my kid's dad. And I got into this fight, and I was picking the fight. It was clear I was looking to fight, but I didn't recognize it originally. And it escalated to a point where I hadn't broken down in like a sobbing, visceral cry in years. I can't remember the last time, but all of a sudden I'm bent over the bed, just heaving, like I can't stop. And it went on for a little bit until I finally stopped. And it was like, all of a sudden I had clarity of like, holy shit, I needed to get that out. And of course I apologize for picking the fight. It was a whole thing, but it was like, it just built up to a point that I don't usually break, but I did break that day. And I think my body was telling me, like, you're going to pick a fight, you're going to do something, because you can't keep operating at this level. Like, you're not sleeping, you're not eating well, you're not taking care of yourself because you're pretending you're okay and you're not okay. That was the most recent one that I recall, because of course I don't know, I probably operated at like 10 all the time, but like that was one where it was so heavy and it was so much that I needed to have like a full-on breakdown to just release it. Was I okay after with everything? No, but I was at least able to function and like make good choices in my, I was taking better care of myself after that because I stopped trying to pretend I was okay. And I think that's, as women, we get ourselves in trouble with that, not allowing ourselves to see that stress cycle through because we want to be okay. We have to pretend we're okay.
Oh, absolutely. I'm in a stress cycle right now. Like, it's interesting. Mandy, do you remember the last time I got mugged and we were going to do a live together in the morning? It was like in October or something. And I texted you. I texted.
Oh my God.
No, right. Not Mandy. It was Dani. I mean, sorry.
No, I thought you did. No, I'm thinking Kaylee. Dani, another friend of mine went to a creator event and got mugged.
Dani and I were going to do a live. And like, I got like mugged, and my response, because this is how I respond in crisis, because like, if something bad happened to me, like I had to keep going. Like it wasn't over, that was just like, to me, it's the opening salvo. So then you get more focused because you have to survive. So like, I'm supposed to, and I was like, hey, I was mugged, so I might be 10 minutes late to this.
Oh my God.
To Dani, and she's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, no,
I remember this.
And I was like, actually, no, I can totally do the live because I already know my stress response. Like, I will be wired and extra focused for like 24 hours and then I will crash. Like, I know that like my body won't stop immediately, right? Like, it will keep going because the way I learned as a child was like, the first time someone hurts you, no, that's just the beginning. Like, now you have to be extra hypervigilant. So for me, it's like a 72-hour cycle. Like, so I'm just saying, I totally get it. And understanding your own body and how that works is super important. I'm in a stress response cycle right now since Saturday. Like, I know that though. And I know like once it starts, especially when you have PTSD, like you said, it has to complete in its own way and it's become healthier, right? Like I used to enter these and stay in them for months until a complete blackout would happen of my body, like a complete breakdown where I could be in the hospital. And like now, like they'll be like 72 hours. So like, but knowing your body, trusting your body, like understanding like the way you respond to trauma is so important.
I feel like the prolonged cycle, though, is really unique. Maybe it's not, but it feels like women do that a lot, right? Like that's something women very uniquely do as far as like the prolonged cycle of it. Because I feel like men, they get all worked up, they get it out, and then they're done. Like you had mentioned
because
the mugging.
They're the aggressors.
My friend Kaylee.
How often is there a predator around for a man, right? Like as a woman for me or as a child, just because I went through something traumatic, someone hit me. It could happen 10 more times that day. Do you know what I mean? Like it was never over for me. Where if you're a man and something stresses you out, like you're usually the top of the food chain. I think that's where my prolonged stress response comes from. It's like, it's never actually over.
Yeah.
I have to head off, y'all, because I have a patient right at 3:00.
Bye, Dani. Love you.
Bye.
And I gotta go. I was gonna say my friend Kaylee. My friend Kaylee was at a creator event in California and she was walking back and she got mugged. That's what triggered the memory. But I remember it distinctly because she tells me the story like 2 weeks later, like it was no big fucking deal. And I'm like, bitch, you got robbed. Like that's a big deal. But because she had been told to, because she just always feels like she just doesn't want to worry people. I'm like, girl, worry me. It's okay. I love you. I want to know you're okay. And I want to know that how you're processing it and how you're dealing with it. But again, it was very unique. And that's when you said the story, like, it was like, remember that time? It's like, as women too, I think we're so quick to be like, we dismiss our own experiences.
Yeah, my own reactions to trauma are scary. I know. And people have told me that. And it's a common thing with people who suffer from CPTSD or PTSD, like your reactions to crisis situations, people almost find them dark or cynical or like, oh, it just happened. Like, and then
we have the best dark humor, though.
Like that was lunch and now it's dinner. And
I use dark humor all the time, man. Like I can't help it. Like I have to find humor in things or I'll go crazy. And I have to just be like, whatever, like that is what it is. I feel like it almost prepared me for what we just went through with the TikTok ban, quote unquote ban.
Oh no,
because everyone was so worried about me. They're like, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, why the fuck does everyone think I'm so fragile? Like, this is what it is. I've been aware of this so long. I've grieved this a million times. Like, I can't control this. All I can do is see what happens and then and then try to make it the best I can somewhere else, do something else. I figured this out. I'll figure something else out. But it was so funny to me because I feel like that was just another example of like, that is minor compared to some of the shit I've had to process. Like, I'm like, okay, like, yeah, I'm actually enjoying a little bit of peace this morning, you know, and I can't do anything with it. So moving on. And then it was back and I was like, okay, never mind. But, no, I just think that as women, especially to your point, yeah, we aren't, you know, men are the top of that food chain. So they're gonna, plus they're conditioned their whole lives to be able to just like fight shit out and be over it. Like you can fight with your friend, have a physical altercation,
accountability, no
and then
judgment.
It's over.
Yeah, but
and
imagine,
they can be like
that's also acceptable as a woman. If you even did that, there's consequences to that.
Yeah,
that's
women are supposed to be underhanded and be
gross.
sneaky and not
fight.
No, there's a great song in Mean Girls the Musical about giving the middle finger to like the world essentially, and to the idea of having to be girl, like the proper girl. And it's like men are taught to fight, but girls are taught to be underhanded. And like, how is that fair? Because it's just, you don't get the same chance to self-regulate then, because you're, especially with that like underhandedness, you never know. It's very sneaky. Very insidious.
I'll say this too, to even the women in the show, we're all like very educated and like interested in social issues. We have to dismantle like the internalized misogyny within ourselves. I cannot tell you how many times I'm on lives and a woman in the chat will say, stop interrupting. If I interrupted every day for the rest of my life, I would never successfully overtalk as many men have overtalked me for as long as they have. And I do, and I'll interrupt whenever I want, because but still, I think it's not even just like, it's the same way, like, how do men become like that? It's ingrained in all of us to think, why is that woman talking so loud?
Right. I have to pull up the numbers because there's a study that talked about how men perceive women as talking like way more than they do. Perceive more women in a room than there are. Like, it's all like the perception is so skewed. My favorite thing to say when people in the lives will, because it never fails when I'm in a live, men will always interrupt me, but they won't interrupt the men in the live, right? They'll only interrupt the women in the live. So my new favorite thing is to be like, all right, Joe, I understand you never let a woman finish, but you're gonna tonight. And like, now it's like my favorite thing, because the way that it just insults their ego, makes everybody else go, oh shit, she really said it. And like gives me the chance to continue, because like it's frustrating as hell. Like you said, I could interrupt someone every single day, multiple times a day for the rest of my life, and never ever meet the threshold of how many times men have interrupted me in my life.
And I do overtalk anyone. Imagine how much I must have been overtalked as a child in order to end up screaming to be heard like this. Because I admit it, I overtalk everyone. I don't care.
I love it though.
I was silenced for like the first 20 years of my life. I'm going to scream for the rest of my life. So.
Well, and I love that we're able to have this like dynamic in here, because we understand there's mutual respect for everybody's thoughts, everybody's opinions. And so we don't get offended if somebody's like, oh my gosh, plus we all have ADHD. So it's not that we're trying to be rude. It's just that we're like, ooh, I know I got to say this, or it'll be out of my brain in like 3 minutes flat. Like, let me just get that out before I forget it, or let me, be able to identify with you. And, that's how we connect. That's how ADHD brains work.
I once took this training for like, ADHD brains are so similar to people on the spectrum, and, like they exhibit in similar ways. Like, and I once took this training for teaching children on the autism spectrum. And that's one of the things, like, you get so excited about, you're trying to have a one-on-one conversation, and that's very hard for people in the autism spectrum, and they can come off as selfish or self-centered, or you know what I mean? Like average social skills seem off, but really it's just because they're interested in a topic, right? Like when you have ADHD and someone's talking about something you're interested in, you're like, yeah, me too, and I would like to tell you my story because I'm so excited about what you're saying.
Yes.
And it comes off super rude. Like it's the same thing on the autism spectrum.
That's where it's so nice when you have other neurodivergence, because you're like, you get that that's not what you're doing. Like I have friends that they'll be like, oh my God, I'm sorry. It seems like I'm centering my story. I'm like, no, I get what you're doing. You're trying to prove that you understand what I'm saying and that you're excited with me. and that's okay. I do want to address a comment, and I understand you probably think you're being cute. Conservative men don't care if women finish. It's not the flex you think it is. It is the flex I think it is, because while conservative men might not care if women finish, they do fucking care if a woman calls them out on it. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to call them out on that. They don't want their manliness and their ability to satisfy a woman to be called into question. Even if they don't actually care if she's satisfied, they sure as fuck don't want me being the one as a liberal white woman sitting there going, you don't get her off.
But
they don't
more
like
importantly, imagine being the guy that's like, hey, I'm terrible in bed. You know what I mean? Like in the chat,
Yeah.
like, excuse
Well,
me.
Naomi Dunn, I understand
have no
you don't think
idea
they
how
care.
to please a woman, and I'm loudly proclaiming that. Like, how
Yeah, and I get
embarrassing.
it's like
What the
defending this.
is that?
They're defending it in the comments. Like, I don't think they care. Believe me, their reactions to me saying it show that they care. I don't.
couldn't
If
find
I
my
had
way
done
out
it
of
and
a
people just
paper
didn't
bag.
care, I probably wouldn't continue to do it.
Forget the clitoris. Like, we get it, sir. You are completely lost, and it makes you feel insecure. You could just
not
ask.
trying to- yeah.
My advice would be to ask for direction, right? Like,
Right.
nobody likes failing. So you could pretend that you don't care, or like you have no knowledge of women's anatomy, and that's okay. No, it's super embarrassing. And I have a feeling deep down, I can smell your insecurity through this.
And Naomi
app.
Dunn, I know you're not in opposition. I can see it looks like you're a subscriber. Maybe I understand that, and I understand you work around them. I'm telling you, in a social media live situation where I call a man out, basically calling him inadequate to women,
They care.
they care. Maybe
I've seen it
you
happen.
haven't. When have you? Like, maybe you haven't done it in that way. I'm doing it in a very intentionally insulting way, and it's effective. If it wasn't effective, I'd find a different approach. Like,
No,
my
I
goal
know,
is to
I've
be
done it.
effective.
But the point is just the point. They do care, and honestly, if they don't, I mean, I would say I didn't care too.
Yeah.
Like deep-seated insecurity, like, and ignorance in general of women's anatomy. Like, yeah, they care. Nobody wants to be abysmal at pleasing a
Right.
woman. Nobody.
Right.
Like, and if you wanted more information on it, you can just ask, because that's the thing. Like, right? Communication is key.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do care. I've seen it over and over in lives. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I have seen so many women in lives say, like, hey, I know you have no experience with women finishing, so like,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
gonna let you slide on this. Like, I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've
It's
seen
exactly the kind of delivery. It's like, I get it. Like, because they only, and again, they will only interrupt the women, and the men in the lives will call it out. And because I know, and that, I think maybe the point of their comment was that it won't change it. I'm not saying they're going to change. They'll still interrupt me, but in the moment, I get to enjoy insulting them, and I usually get an opportunity to finish what I'm saying. I recognize they'll probably interrupt me in the next part, but I'm still going to embarrass them, and I'm going to still continue what I say, and then I'll mute them, and eventually they'll get booted from the live if they don't stop it. But, you know.
I disagree. I
at
think
this
I can
point-
stop men from interrupting me, but I think you can.
Yeah.
I think you can teach men anything.
Oh, you can. I don't know if in a live with some MAGA idiot that's just in there
I'm just saying,
temporarily.
I don't. Yeah,
But I'm still going to try.
It will. Yeah, repetition. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying you can change people's behavior. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, just
I
like
think
Hegseth
I think
during
it's
the
effective.
hearing. Yes, just like Hegseth during the only interrupting women. Yeah, because that's what they do. All right, my love. I have to get ready to head down.
I want to go too. I have some things I have to do today. I have a couple appointments. So I'll let you go. You can go
Yeah,
to
it's
your
like-
event and
Yep, I had a
get
few-hour
some
drive
sleep.
today, so
Have
And then I
fun. Let me know how it
get
goes.
going. I will. Yes, I will. I will be posting from it tomorrow, and I'm excited to talk with people about how they're feeling tomorrow. Reminder: those who don't know, tomorrow would be the 52nd anniversary of Roe v. Wade.
I was going to say, tell them what event you're doing or where you're going.
So there's an event. I don't know the exact. I'd have to pull up the location. It's in Madison, Wisconsin. It's an event celebrating or discussing the anniversary of Roe. Obviously, it would have been 52 years tomorrow, but it's now been overturned for nearly 3. There are a few people speaking. One that I plan to speak with is a reverend, and I think, and it's a man. And he's speaking on, basically how to be pro-choice, in a religious institution. And I think it'll be really interesting to chat with him a little bit, because I think that is the thing we come up against a lot, is the religious point of view. And I always am looking for actual members of the cloth to be like, hey, like, this is why it is okay to be pro-choice and religious. And on top of that, a man in that situation. I just am interested to hear his thoughts on it, as well as some other survivors that'll be there to talk about their experiences. And yeah, so it'll be really interesting to get to talk with people about it tomorrow and be on the ground sort of experiencing that real time with people, especially in lieu of everything that happened yesterday in our new administration. So
have fun. Let us know how it goes. We'll watch for your post. Text me later. Love you.
Bye, sweetie. See you next week.
Okay, quickly, things I want to talk about. Oops. Okay, there we go. For a second, I disconnected the live and I was like, oh, great job. Great job, Felice. No, all I'm trying to say is, listen, someone in the comments said you can't teach people that don't respect you. No, I didn't say teach someone something. I said modify people's behavior. Like, you have to read more on psychology to modify people's behavior. You don't know, it does not require respect to modify anyone's behavior, right? People don't even have to change to modify their behavior. Like narcissists, that's a personality disorder that's, basically incurable. They're experimenting with it now, but unfortunately, underneath that narcissistic shell is just an infant, right? And then you have to have a mother source to reparent you. So it's a very difficult thing to actually fix somebody with narcissistic personality disorder. But can they modify their behavior? Sure. Because it becomes hard to be in society if they don't. Yeah, you can modify your behavior. It doesn't mean anything. Their beliefs have changed. It doesn't mean they respect anyone, but they can learn to modify their behavior. And as a teacher, like, you learn that too. Like, right? Because I was a child who was being horrifically abused. I didn't respect anyone, any of my parental authorities. That doesn't mean I didn't modify my behavior. So I'm just making the point that those are two very different things, right? You don't have to have respect to make someone change the way they behave. Two different things. So anyways, hi, Judy, you're back. It's nice to see you here. I was going to say thank you to the people who subscribe to me on Substack. A Girl Has No Name. I have a couple things I want to show you. I wanted to show you a couple things that we didn't get to. Wait, I want to show you this clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene really quick from yesterday. It's absolutely nuts. I shouldn't be going through it like this. This is a long, drawn-out process. Sorry, I'm almost there. Wait, did I pass it? No, it's right here. Listen to this. This is crazy. Oh, I haven't muted. Hold on. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday.
There's no unity. No, absolutely not. No, these people would line us up in front of a firing squad and kill us if they could. We know exactly who the Democrats are. Their mask is off. Joe Biden pardoned his entire family. He pardoned General Milley. He pardoned Anthony Fauci. He pardoned the J6 committee members, and he pardoned Capitol police officers that turned against everyone. And so this is
Capitol police officers who turned against everyone. I'm sorry, what are you saying?
Not unity. Let me spell this out really clear. Democrats, until you start writing big checks to Republicans and you start voting Republican, and Democrats here in Congress, when they vote for President Trump's agenda, then we can start talking about unity. But until then, there is no unity. There's President Trump's agenda, the MAGA agenda, and we have to get to work and deliver the mandate that the American people voted for.
Barely won the popular vote. Obama won by every Democratic president in recent history, won the popular vote by bigger numbers. But somehow we are trapped in this hellscape. Did you hear that? Until you guys start writing checks. After all this discussion about supporting women, I just think I just had to say that. I know, Rachel. I think this was my way of saying I hate it here. I just wanted you guys to see this. Tomorrow is the people's receipts. I already have like, oh my God, the outline is wild. We're going to go through, just what's going on. It's going to be informative. We're going to laugh so we don't cry. It's a lot. It's at 11:30 Pacific time, 2:30 Eastern. I just want to It's terribly hard to understand this reality. I know it's absolutely baffling. I saw this clip, like it was one of the first things I saw because I wasn't watching media yesterday for my mental health. And then I saw this and I was just like, oh my God. And then I also saw the other clip. Actually, I have another clip to show you guys. I also saw Kid Rock saying that, well, I'll just let him say it.
And that without a script or a teleprompter.
He's not only the greatest president ever, he's one of the greatest men ever to walk the earth. I mean,
it's fun to
I'm not sucking up to him. I'm not a brown-nosed guy. I'm just telling people verbatim, like, I've been fortunate enough to have a front row seat to this whole thing like you have. And I think people are really starting to see through now what the mainstream media has tried to do to this man. It's a travesty. There's some people's heads who's be put in a guillotine.
But they tried, but they failed.
Yes, they failed.
The American people.
Did you hear Hanny be like, well, what? No, wait. Like, we're not going to unalive people, Kid Rock, you weirdo. Did anybody hear that? There are some people whose heads should be put in I will not fill that in. Like these are probably the first two clips I saw when I started reading, like when I started doing like Kid Rock. Trump's the greatest guy. This is a 34-time felon, been found liable of SA, been credibly accused of SA over and over and over again. In his own words, he likes to grab women by the pee. If you have money, they let you do that, except for the women who are accusing him of SA. Greatest guy I've ever known. And we'll talk about a lot of things tomorrow. What's going on with TikTok. We're going to talk about Trump's latest crypto scam that is uneffing believable. There are no words for the crypto scam that Trump has started. I think it's it's like farther than I ever thought he would go. I know, me too. And then we're going to go over the highlights of executive orders, things of that nature. So make sure you're here tomorrow. Oh, no, they are no longer the party of law and order. They were the party of law and order for white people. Like, yeah, if law and order means to disproportionately incarcerate brown and black people, then yes, they were the party of law and order. Yeah, just like they love women and children. They're busy saving women and children. This has always been the conservative agenda, right? This is what we've been combating. We handed them every branch of government, which they have every branch of government, and we just get to sit back and watch them dismantle. And all of this is the distraction. The anti-trans stuff, this is all a distraction. People are going to unalive for the distraction while Trump robs us all. Yeah, it is very scary. We're very, very, I could not agree more. These are scary times in America. This is, in fact, the reality. Please go to my link tree and just follow me on everything. Yeah, I'm going to be coming. Jen, I saw your thing. I don't think as of right now we can subscribe on TikTok. It depends when TikTok is put back in the App Store. And I'm developing subscription levels on Discord. I just started a Substack and I'm going to start writing on there. So follow me on there. I'm looking into different ways to subscribe. Like right now, I think this week, the best way will be Cash App and Venmo, just because like everything is so in flux. And I'm going to try to set up subscription levels on Substack, but like I want to make sure I have more content on there. I don't want to direct people to a place where I feel like there's not a ton of value. So I'm figuring that out. Maybe we'll be Discord in the interim because yeah, this is just a Band-Aid, right? Like Trump didn't do anything. That 90-day extension is written into the TikTok ban. He wants to basically sell 15% based on his own post. right? He wants to sell 50% of TikTok to like investors of his choice so he can be enriched off of it. Like I always say, follow the money. Follow the money. Who has huge positions in Meta and is getting rich off the TikTok ban? Who is Trump going? I already said this. Trump's going to negotiate a sale, and his friends, like that group of Kevin O'Leary investors, for instance, are going to give him a cut of this sale. There's a bunch of people that stand to make a lot of money. No, I'll get into it tomorrow. He's not even talking about making the Chinese divest. He's saying he wants 50% of it to go to an investor group in the US. He's like, the US to own it, but the US can't own it. That's not, the US government can't own TikTok. So what he means is a group of investors of his choice. I'll get into it. This is all money. You always have to follow the money. Who's going to get rich off all of this? That's everything is a distraction. Follow the transfers of wealth. That is always going to be in my advice. Don't listen to anything Trump says. Follow the money. This is all a distraction, right? This is the prestige part of the trick. Look over here. While I rob everyone blind. Pay no attention to my unbelievably obvious meme coin crypto scam that will primarily be defrauding my own people that voted for me. And right now I have a stake valued at $25 billion that I can exercise in the next few years while I'm still president of the United States. Nothing to see here. I'm really worried about people harassing people in bathrooms. Thanks, Jen. Thank you so much for the $10 survival mode. LOL. The good thing about survival mode is this is when I'm at my best in hypervigilance glory until I collapse. What do you mean? How do you follow the transfers? I mean, like financial transactions? Who gets what? This is what we went over last Friday. Who has big positions in Meta? The co-author of the TikTok ban had a huge position in Meta, Michael McCall, then authored the TikTok ban, voted for it, took a bigger position. Democrats are profiting off this. Republicans are profiting off this. This is why Congress shouldn't be making stock trades. But also just TikTok, if they're going to divest whatever percentage of their business and agree to some rules that's going to look like what Elon Musk did to Twitter, we'll be able to track it. Follow the money. Trump says tons of lies, right? We're going to get rid of birthright citizenship. We're the only country that does it. No, pretty much every country in the Americas does it. And a bunch of other countries around the world. But, whatever. Let's get rid of birthright citizenship. Yeah. Oh, well, welcome to Arizona. Yeah, we've been doing that for a while. Thank you so much, Cam, for the $10. Great show. Keep up the good fight. So yeah, be here for the People's Receipts tomorrow, 11:30 Pacific time, 2:30 Eastern. I promise it's going to be good. And I rarely say that. And take care of yourselves. One last, just to remind everyone, like I got the curriculum for our weekly support group, the DBT cards. Coping skills, strategies to find balance, joy, and purpose. Self-directed DBT skills, regulate intense emotions and create lasting change. A 3-month workbook. DBT workbook for anxiety. Managing stress, worry, and fear. Don't worry. We're going to start a weekly support group in the Discord. We were going over ridiculous names at the beginning of the show. It might be called the Bigly Healing Circle. I don't know. Or Conservative Coping Circle. We'll figure it out. It's going to be called something funny. We may change the names, but I am working on the curriculum, and it will probably just be mainly about people supporting people, but you get my point. But be here tomorrow, 11:30 Pacific, 2:30 Eastern. Love you all. Feelings with Felice. Yeah, that's almost an oxymoron. Not anymore, but at one point in my life, people would have laughed at that. All right, I shall see you guys tomorrow. Keep fighting the good fight. Yeah, everyone hydrate, get some sleep. Thank you so much. Love you. Thank you guys so much. Have a great